Hello. Welcome to the Armchair Expert. I'm your host, Dax Shepard. Today, I'm going to speak with a musician named Van Hunt. I was deeply obsessed with Van Hunt around 2005 and 6 and onward. I've not ever stopped listening to him. In fact, my 4-year-old daughter's favorite songs is one of his, Being a Girl. And I talk about him so frequently, and I gifted Monica some of his music for Christmas. And then she and Rob, my other producer, went behind my back and got a hold of him. And as a surprise to me, they brought him in. And it was a very joyful experience to speak to someone who I have admired and enjoyed and whose music has brought so much color to my life over the last 12 years. So please enjoy Van Hunt.
He's an armchair expert. He's an armchair expert.
Roberto, are you ready? Van Hunt, welcome to Armchair Expert. I'm so excited you came. You're the first person I'll have interviewed that we have zero connection. We've never met. I mean, I've met you. You don't know that. That'll come out later. But I know nothing about you. For me, this is my first blind date. And I'm very pumped about it.
Well, the blind date success ratio is about even with the wedding marriage.
Yeah. So I think you're right.
You got a 50-50 chance.
But my history with you is, I guess, in maybe when did your self-titled come out? 2005?
Yeah, 04.
04.
Yeah.
So in 2004, you had a couple songs, and as luck would have it, I had at that time had a car that had XM radio. Yeah. So I was listening to stations where you got different stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And so on one of like either Heart and Soul or either 48, 49, 50 in the XM world, that's where all the R&B is.
Oh, yeah.
They would play Dust a ton. And I fell in love with that song, didn't know what on earth you were saying. When I eventually read the lyrics, I was like, oh, I was not hearing that at all. And then they also played Seconds of Pleasure a lot. And then I got that album. And then I just became a Van Hunt.
Oh, man.
Obsessed Van Hunt. I bet I'd listen to that and then Jungle. I'm so bad with names and everything. You'll have to excuse my...
Jungle's better, though.
You like it? Yeah, it should have just been Jungle on the jungle floor.
Yeah.
And those, for me, I just as a listener, I don't know if it really was at the same time, but I think the first John Legend album I got was around that same time too, right?
Yeah.
So those two, John Legend's first, or whatever Ordinary People was on.
Yeah.
That and Van Hunt were just back and forth.
Oh, wow. Man.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm a huge fan.
I've
seen you live.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. And I'm always talking to Monica and Rob about, in fact, this year for Christmas, I gifted Monica about 5 of your songs. And I just happened to talk about you a lot. And then they went behind my back and asked you to do it. Anyways, long-winded way to say, I'm so excited you're here.
Man, I had no idea it was a surprise. You actually told me that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We didn't want to scare you off with our super fandom.
Yeah. This is a little dangerous for you. Yeah, my fandom's a little dangerous. But we are both from the Midwest.
Yeah.
You're from Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is right off I-75, right?
It is.
That's right. I've driven through there a billion times on my way down to Florida from Michigan.
Yeah. It's called Little Detroit.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. The manufacturing commonalities, I guess.
Oh,
Yeah.
And similarly, too, I think that Dayton has a huge population of folks that came up from Kentucky and stuff for that industrial work, right?
Exactly. In Mississippi.
Yeah. So my grandparents are both, the ones I identify most with, they were both from Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
And came up for Wonder Bread Bakery and Kraft Cheese. Wow. And then they stayed. So are your folks, do they have any history in the South?
Yeah, well, both of my grandparents were from Mount Sterling, Kentucky.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And the other side, they're from Mississippi, Greenville, Mississippi. So.
And what maybe, I've read this in two different books, one in a Malcolm Gladwell book that talks about the culture of pride.
Yeah.
Right? Looking at all these longstanding family wars like the Hatfields and McCoys, right?
Mm-hmm.
and how many thousands of people were killed in Appalachia from like family feuds. And he attempted to explain that. And his conclusion was that most of those people, they all came from Ireland and Scotland. That's who kind of settled that area, Appalachia. And that all their tradition was herding. And if you're a herder, you got to fucking stand your ground. Like your perimeter's unknown and you're mixing with other herds, and dudes there got to fucking kill each other to survive. Yeah. And then they brought that, what they labeled a culture of pride, to Kentucky. And then they brought it to Dayton, Ohio, I'm assuming, because they certainly brought it up to Milford, Michigan, where guys they're willing to die over something pretty insignificant.
Yeah.
Would you say your neighbors were like that in Dayton?
Well, absolutely. And I always grew up feeling like you had to be sort of a rock in the stream, you know, and always remain the same no matter what was coming at you, even if you had to make, you know, minor shape shifts in order to adapt. Yeah. But it was constantly standing your ground. And in fact, there was no being able to back up. I remember, you know, my mom pushing me out to fight.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
As I was running into the house from a fight.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No. My mom was very similar. You were raised by a single mother?
Yeah.
I too was raised by a single mother. And and she had two boys, my brother and I. Eventually I had a little sister as well. But yeah, I think the pressure on her to like, I got to get these boys out of this house. Yeah. So they can protect themselves. Yeah. She was, abnormally pro fighting, which is, I think, unique. In fact, I think the story my mom tells that she relishes the very most is my brother, all through kindergarten and first grade, he got beat up almost daily by this kid that was at his bus stop. They would get off at the bus. My brother would be the first to get home, and he would kick my brother's ass in the front yard, and it drove my mom insane.
Oh, man.
One day, my mom had put me in the front yard, and I was in a little swing. He's 5 years older than me. And this bully stopped and screamed in my face, and I started crying, and my brother beat the fuck out of him. Like my mom had to come out and pull him off the top. And my mom's more proud of that than like graduating from college or any accomplishment we've ever had. I think that's the highlight for her.
That really got passed down to you as well. You feel the same way.
Yeah. Do you have any kids?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
How many?
I just one.
Just one?
Yeah.
Boy or girl?
He's a boy, teenager.
Oh, he's a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now that you're artistic, you moved to California, you've made a lot of declarations that you're not the dude who's probably going to tell his kid to get out there and fight. But do you wrestle with that?
No, not at all, because the first time he was hit in his face in class, he walked away. And I told him what a big mistake I thought that was, just for his future.
Yes.
Because the first place that a guy looking for a quick victory will go to now is you.
Right.
So you might want to stand your ground.
Is he
next time.
Is he artistic and thoughtful like you?
He's
or is he a lughead?
He's certainly thoughtful. I wouldn't say he's artistic. I didn't push that on to him. He's much more of a into politics.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
you probably couldn't have seen that coming.
I did not see that.
Yeah. So, but how old were you when your parents got divorced?
Oh, well, 2. So I was very young.
All right, I was 3.
Yeah.
So I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
And then you'd go see dad on the weekends?
Well, yeah. Well, you know how dads are. 1972, 3. So yeah, it was,
when he could get around to
it. Yeah, when he could get around to it.
So I was reading about you last night, and I was like, oh, there's a lot of similarities here. So I was 3, and my dad eventually got sober. He died 25 years sober, but he fucking partied balls.
Yeah. We
lived in this 1-bedroom apartment, drove a Chevette, and he kept our family house and had a Corvette and just partied. And he would, he was supposed to come every other weekend. And then half of those weekends we went straight to my grandparents' house. And then the weekends we were with him, we hung out at this bar, the Dirty Duck.
Yeah.
And he would we get there at 10 in the morning. They had quartered chili dogs. So we would just eat chili dogs, play Pac-Man. My dad would land chicks all day long. And then we'd eventually all pile into the Corvette and drive back to his house. And it'd snow and we'd end up in a ditch. There was a lot of shit going on for us. Yeah. And I was reading your story and I was like, oh, I feel like that's a little bit similar. I'm sure a much different vibe to it all, but.
No, the outcome was pretty much the same, And my parents were so young that I really had to kind of adapt to whatever it was they were doing.
Right.
So my mom was much more responsible, professional. But my dad, though he loved me, you kind of had to just go with whatever he was doing, and that could be playing basketball to chasing women to fixing cars. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
Smoking weed, whatever was happening at that moment, you were just going to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And if you couldn't, he would shove you into a room and close the door and then give you a whipping if you looked.
Yeah, I think that's in a lot of parenting books, that technique.
Yeah.
Dooring. You said in an interview that he was a part-time painter and a pimp.
Yeah. Well,
Did you mean pimp like he just got a lot of ass, or pimp like he actually had some gals on rotation?
Well, the way I remember this moment. It was a critical moment in my career. And I was the first publicity statement, and I had just written this story. They were like, just write down some things that about yourself. And one of the things I wrote was my father making fun of him. He was a part-time painter and a part-time pimp.
Okay. And it stuck.
Yeah, it didn't come out that way. Part-time painter and a pimp.
Full-time pimp. Part-time painter, full-time pimp.
So, but I used to have all these memories. Like I said, my parents split when I was 2, and I just had all these memories of all of these girls in rooms. And one day I just asked him, like, what was happening? Because I remember you and I remember all these girls.
Yeah.
There's only one situation where that really makes any sense.
He is a dressmaker.
Yeah.
Did it turn out he was a dressmaker?
And he was like, yeah, I dabbled in that. He's like, I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do.
Right.
And, I had green eyes and I just tried it.
Did he have green eyes?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
and you can get pretty far on green eyes, right?
I suppose.
Yeah.
What I mean? In that community, in that world, I don't know.
Yeah.
So.
And were your friends primarily in similar situations?
I didn't have any friends that I recall, to be honest. My parents' friends were my friends. If they had kids, I ran with them.
Yeah.
But it was very insular, my experience.
Right.
I moved out of Ohio eventually, and then, I became friends with like neighborhood kids, like a regular guy. But other than that, like I said, my parents were so young, they couldn't afford to, have babysitters.
Right.
So other than my, family, like my grandmother's kids who were also young.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't really have any friends.
But what little I read of your takeaway from that childhood in interviews, it seems positive.
Yeah, I thought so.
It's so positive that it made me go like, oh, I need to, because I have similar stories, and I kind of I credit a lot of that, some of that parenting to the eventual things I had to confront,
Yeah.
But it was fun at the Dirty Duck. Like I did like the Dirty Duck, and also when we went to his house on the weekends, he felt guilty because he wasn't crushing as a dad. So like we got to order pizza, and we got to rent movies. So there was a ton of good stuff.
Yeah.
And reading your kind of takeaway from the whole thing, I thought, oh, I need to be careful that I'm not like everything's bad or everything is,
I wouldn't have viewed much of it as bad. I mean, in the sense that, I didn't have, it certainly weren't advantages where you might see someone else's life as more advantaged. But I didn't recognize that.
It was the only childhood you knew, right?
So
yeah. It was normal.
I didn't even care. It was just every day was a bit of an adventure for me. And to, run into a dope house and you're sitting there and your dad's playing, whether it's cards or dominoes, and your aunt is running back and forth through the rooms telling you, say, hey, don't you tell your Uncle Steve I was over here. Like, okay. The music running in the background, and that was what I remember, and the smoke in the room,
right.
it was all very cinematic.
Yes.
And for all of this happened between 3, 4, and up until I was 14, 15. And those are your most impressionable years for your brain.
Are you seeing violence?
No, there wasn't.
Oh, really?
Any violence.
That's good.
I'm sure I've probably heard of violence, but I never felt.
But guys weren't getting, the guys weren't hammered, getting bent out of shape about the card game and then throwing down or
Well, there
pulling
were rumors of that. It was
okay.
like, oh yeah, somebody broke into so and so's game last night. But not murders and
Right.
and robberies. Not from what.
So you
I
weren't
recall.
scared.
No.
Oh,
not
that's
at all.
good.
Not at all.
And your mom, she was a single mom.
Yeah,
Did you have stepdads?
I had stepdads. Yeah,
How'd that go?
it was cool. I mean,
My goodness, why do you?
Yeah, so
I know. And then you broke your neck. How was that? That was cool. That was really
That's
cool.
a great way to look back
It is.
on
I
life.
don't know if I buy it, but it's really good.
but it's crazy stories because I met with my mom. She came out here to visit me like 2 weekends ago, and I was like, "Mom, did your Uncle James really die after standing down the Ku Klux Klan in Mississippi?" She was like, "Yeah," and she told me the whole story. And these are just little things you hear in the family.
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Well, like, did my stepbrother have like the biggest cocaine? Was he involved in the biggest cocaine bust?" Like in Dayton history? She was like, "Oh yeah, that happened. It's in the newspaper." And it's just little things you hear about, and you don't really put it together until later.
Yeah. But you were fine. Personally, I have a terrible authority complex.
Oh wow.
I just don't. As soon as I recognize someone's in a position of authority, it's terrible.
You and Monica don't get along at all.
Yeah, because she's in charge. Sometimes we don't get along
That's
for that
true.
reason.
That's true.
But I attribute a lot of it to our house would have this rhythm to it. It's my brother, my sister, and I. Life's pretty good. We knew how to, thrive with my mom. And then a new dude would enter the scenario.
Yeah.
And then it was generally going to be how that guy saw the world. We were all going to adopt for a little while. I very much hated that. But you didn't mind that.
Well, I can't say.
Don't fucking bullshit me, man.
I can't say that that ever was a problem for me. My mom would set the stage in a relationship early on, and she'd always say, I taught him to speak his mind because it's the only way he's going to protect himself out here. And so I didn't know this. She told me this later on. So when I'd have run-ins with her boyfriends, they would generally back down.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And so if it was like, I hate the way you wash the car, do it again, I was like, fuck it, I'm not doing that.
Right.
They would just go back in the house.
Oh, okay.
It was never like some big standout.
So your mom was strong.
She was very strong.
Yeah. Is presumably still strong. She didn't lose it along the way.
No.
Yeah. Are you only child?
Well, I was for 10 years.
For 10 years.
Yeah.
Now, did you get into this dynamic at all where your mom kind of makes you her husband while there's no one around?
For sure. And
Yeah.
she admits that. And she would tell you in a minute, I was essentially my little brother's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And to me, I saw this was definitely harder on my brother than myself because he was older, but that too compounded the thing when the stepdad did enter the equation or the new boyfriend, because it was like, okay, great. So thank you. You've been doing a great job being a dad to your brother and like being an emotional bedrock for me. But now you're on the bench.
Sure.
Isn't that confusing?
Well, first of all, I can easily adapt, even to assholes. I do it in the studio all the time when I'm producing projects because everybody thinks they're a genius.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you have to allow them to be a genius in a temporal kind of setting in order to get something done. And
right.
You know that what you're going to do and what you're capable of, and that doesn't change just because this guy is really an asshole, but he's a genius right now. And so you let that happen, and then you swing back around. Both my parents being Pisces, I imagine, helps. I being a Pisces myself, I can remain pretty cool in those situations and allow them to kind of twirl themselves into whatever shape they're going to take.
Yeah.
And then I can do what I need to do.
But that takes a ton of confidence and optimism, because at times I would imagine if you're producing an artist and you have almost zero control over what's happening, or at least it feels that way.
Yeah.
That would scare me.
Well, I don't try and control anything except that we keep all of the good stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. So you're kind of more there to encourage them to get it all out, and then you guys will edit basically later. You'll take the gems out of the mix.
Absolutely. And arguments, I want all of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I feel like nothing's going to happen until somebody tells somebody the truth.
Anyway,
But
you've always been an easy-going kid.
Yeah, in the sense that, I like the way you put it, in the sense that confidence allows you to be easygoing. My boxing coach used to always say the least amount of fights are happening inside the gym because everybody knows how to fight.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Everybody's fighting who's on the outside and trying to prove something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what school did you go to? You went to a public high school in Dayton?
In Dayton, yeah.
And what was the kind of makeup of that high school?
It was probably 65% black.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe even 70.
And 35% is?
Well, I'd say 30% was white, and then we had 5% and probably Persian Jews. I know that seems strange in Dayton, but there was like an Armenian camp, Persian Jew camp. Just coming up. It's probably grown since. Yeah.
Similarly, where I'm from, there was a gigantic currently still is a huge population of Chaldeans, which almost nobody in the rest of the country knows what Chaldeans are, which are Christian Iraqis.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like Persian Jews.
Yeah.
Yeah. I dig it. It goes against what you're expecting. Okay. So your dad somehow is friends with the drummer of the Ohio Players or many of the Ohio Players.
No, particularly.
If you don't remember the Ohio Players, they're Skin Tight. Skin Tight.
It's very important.
But they were huge, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I have to imagine they're hugest in Dayton, Ohio, or Ohio.
Well, at the point they came along, yeah, they were the first big success. So, yeah.
And are they from Dayton specifically?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And by the way, what are you, 50 miles from Cincinnati?
45 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you going there at all as a kid?
To Cincinnati?
Yeah. Is that like, we would drive into Detroit. That was our let's go downtown.
To be honest, I drove to Detroit more often.
Oh, you did?
Than I did Cincinnati.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a real feather in our hat. So your dad is friends with do I have this right? Your dad's friends with one of the Ohio Players.
Yeah, Jimmy Diamond specifically.
Yes, Jimmy Diamond, which by the way, what a great nickname to have if you're a drummer. Jimmy Diamond.
Yeah, their houses abutted each other.
Oh, really?
The backyards. Yeah.
Okay.
As children. And
as children.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they grew up together.
And so you start playing the drums at 7 years old?
Somewhere in there. Yeah.
Yeah, who knows what's lore and what's real. But it's suffice to say, when you were young, you start playing the drums. That's the first instrument?
Yep.
And is that inspired by having met Jimmy Diamond?
Well, it definitely was by my father's stories. I'd meet these people, but it was nothing as exciting as like listening to stories about these people.
Yeah.
That was my big thing. It's like how it sets up cinematically.
Yeah.
I was really into that.
Yeah. At a young age, you're romanticizing
totally
musicians, music, and the whole scene.
Yeah. Everything for me was, a kind of a synthesis. Like I'd hear it and it just made sense all of a sudden. Like if I could hear it in a setting, in a story, the color of it, and then I was inspired. Like just meeting people didn't mean as much.
Right.
Like if I walked away from here now, like I would remember Kirsten's LA Dodgers hat, how she got that, what that meant, Dax's blue shirt. And I remember.
You'd probably remember more about Kristen than me, if we're being honest. No. I'm imagining.
I actually knew more about you than I did Kirsten.
Oh, yeah. Really? My assumption was that you had never heard of me when we asked you to do this.
No.
I kind of operate with a nice 0.2 self-esteem where I just assume there's no way you know who I am.
No, I knew about you primarily because of the commercials. But they were so funny to me. I was like, who are these people?
Right. So yeah. I think a lot of people thought that. Who the fuck are these people? They're Christmas sweaters.
And so I look back.
And if you don't know who we are, the commercial, like we don't ever say Samsung.
Yeah.
So it would be confusing because you would be like, oh, they're not even talking about the product. We're just watching these two people live. They must be some people, right?
Yeah.
Was that the thought process?
That was totally because I hadn't seen your movies. I hadn't seen anything. And then that made me look you up.
Oh.
Yeah, because my girl thought you were the same, some other guy.
Zach Braff from Scrubs. I bet she did.
Some guy with a crooked nose, like he doesn't look.
Owen
Wilson.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's very complimentary.
That is.
I'll take that.
He doesn't look anything like that.
He's great.
I've been accused of sounding like him sometimes in movies, and I do an impersonation of
I
him.
can see that.
Have you ever seen Bottle Rocket?
No.
Oh God,
That's
it's Owen Wilson's
phenomenal.
first movie, and it's the best by far, and it's Wes Anderson's first movie. And Owen Wilson has a line there. He goes, "How an asshole like Mom gets such a great kitchen?"
It's good.
It's pretty good,
really
right?
good. Yeah.
I meant to ask you about Groundlings too.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's kind of how I started. I got here going, I want to do comedy. I came to do stand-up, and then I was too afraid to do stand-up.
Wow.
And then I heard, I could do sketch comedy, and then you're kind of with some people to share the responsibility. So I auditioned for that, and I hadn't acted. And then I went through that program, which took 4 or 5 years, and then just fell in love with writing and acting and all those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you take a class at the Groundlings?
No, it's just I'm really into the comedy culture.
Oh, you are?
Obviously, I'm Lenny Bruce, Richard Pryor.
Oh, Richard Pryor's
I'm a big fan, like Jim
Sunrises and
Belushi.
Sets.
And I just love the idea of stand up. I love the idea of comedy troops.
There's some weird overlap I've noticed. So like Kanye's obsessed with comedy. Like Kanye's always at Largo. He's friends with the Z's.
Yeah.
There is a weird intertwining or cross-pollination between comedians and people in R&B. Well, specifically like kind of R&B or
Rap.
Yeah. I don't see like Coldplay guys at Largo. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe.
I don't know why that is.
Richard Pryor and Sly were like tight.
They were.
There's no weirdness.
There's a super outlaw nature to both, far more in the black community. Like Richard Pryor he is as punk rock as a man could have possibly been.
Yeah.
Because I was obsessed with him, and I got some of his very early stand-up routines where he was like just at a tiny little club somewhere in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You ever suck a dick?" I sucked a dick. And I'm like, wow, this dude in 1970 is like, it was presumably straight. It's just starting his set with, "You ever suck a dick?"
Absolutely. And then
That's
just
so
like
awesome.
The story about 20 minutes of a set where he just says nigger like over and over and over
20
and over
minutes.
again. Like
Yeah.
he was like, I just wanted to desensitize the word.
Yeah.
And it did not work.
Maybe it's because when stand up or improv is done amazingly well, there is something musical about it. Like when there's callbacks and everything, there is something.
Yeah. Well, and then think of the tradition of improvisation in jazz.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. And then that is quite literally what you're doing on that stage too, is like, oh, okay, you're going to take it now. No, I'll take it. Yeah. There is a lot of communication happening.
They're both so alive.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think that's
they
a
are.
good point.
And they weirdly both suffer from the same thing, which is Monica and I have talked about this because Monica's a UCB person.
Oh, okay.
They have at times tried to put comedic improv shows on TV, and they're terrible.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because when you're there in person, the stakes of someone failing are so high that it heightens everything. So if they deliver anything, there's a huge relief and it's really funny.
Yeah.
But something happens when you view it on TV where you go, "Oh, this was written." So now the bar is way higher for what a written sketch should be.
Yeah.
And likewise, I think you can go see live jazz and something can happen for 18 minutes. It just fucking blows your mind.
Sure.
But if you heard it on an album, it might be substandard.
Yeah. I absolutely agree.
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
Yeah, like when you're in the room, you're kind of on your toes.
Yes.
You know, and when you're watching something through a screen, you don't have that
Yeah,
feeling.
there's
There's no energy to it.
Yeah. There's no fear of they're going to fail because you won't be sharing in that with them.
And
Yeah.
I've heard A&R guys, complain about never being able to capture their favorite bands live on a recording.
Uh-huh.
I think that's the reason.
Yeah.
that you guys
Sure.
just highlighted.
Well, also recording has evolved quite a bit, right? Back from when Phil Spector he had 4 tracks at his disposal and he's ping-ponging and trying to get up to 16, right?
Yep.
So everyone's just forced to play at the same time, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And now that kind of got really broken up, right?
Yeah.
Is that for better or worse? What school of thought are you from?
Well, I don't think it matters. I think the content, unfortunately, has suffered just simply because you don't necessarily see the benefit for your career to work on the craft. That's why I'm so interested in Groundlings as something that still exists.
Yeah.
As a school that someone can go through and graduate
Yeah.
in 2018 is kind of crazy.
Yeah, you're right.
There's nothing like that in music. Nashville might be the last place where you could actually go and
Get an education, kind of.
and be taught how to write a song.
Yeah. Yeah. So you start playing the drums, and then shortly thereafter you start playing the bass and keyboards. Am I correct in that order?
Yeah, I think the saxophone's in
Oh, right,
somewhere.
saxophone.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is one of my big political platform is based solely on that they need to bring sax solos back. Because I challenge you to find a successful song in the 70s and 80s that didn't have a sweet sax solo in them. And every now and then I'll fucking hear one. Like I'll be listening to Steely Dan, and I almost got to pull over the car and take my pants off. It's so nasty and delicious. And then they're gone.
Yeah.
They somehow got cheesy, and I'm very upset about that.
Yeah.
In 80s movies, there's no romantic movie where when it's time to get wild, that fucking sax solo comes out and just that's the roadmap. Do you agree with that at all? Do you as a previous saxophone player, do you feel like it's just what the fuck happened to the saxophone?
Well, some of that was inappropriate sax.
Oh, of course. That was kind
That's
of
his
the appeal.
favorite.
Yes. I think it was like fucking nasty. Like you need to take a shower after that sax solo.
But I love the the Ray Charles sax guy. I think his name was King Louis or something.
That's a good name, King Louis.
Yeah.
You better be able to fucking blow that sax if
man.
your name is King Louis.
Yeah, he played
now,
hard.
everybody, welcome to the stage, King Louis. What the fuck? Why are they calling him King Louis?
and Ray played sax too.
Oh, he did?
Sax, yeah.
Boy, that almost makes you wonder if he's really blind.
Yeah.
That's too many.
my
That's
God.
too many. I mean, there are a lot of buttons on that saxophone, right? There's a couple thousand buttons on that
We're
thing.
exposing it here.
Well, there is this weird conspiracy theory that Stevie Wonder's not blind. Have you seen any of this online?
No.
Who's saying that?
Go to YouTube and watch. And people have compiled a couple different moments in his life where he did some uncanny shit. One is he's walking on a stage, and then somehow a guitar stand falls, and he catches it.
Mm.
Mind you, I don't think he can see. I'm not at all perpetuating that Stevie Wonder can see, but there is a community of people who think he can see, which is hilarious. Yeah. And they have found some clips where it appears he can see.
I think there's evidence for the fact that he's really blind.
Well, did you ever see that movie, The Prestige? About the magicians?
Yes.
You did, right?
Like
It's top 10 for me.
Yeah.
I can watch that. Right now, if you go, fuck this interview, let's watch Prestige, I would stand up and put it on. Yeah, so if you remember one of the magicians, they idolized him because he never broke character. He lived it on the walk to the theater. He lived it in his house, right? Yeah. So Stevie Wonder would be the ultimate Prestige.
Yes.
Even if he wasn't blind, you'd have to respect the commitment to... And anyway, we got way sidetracked. So you started playing the saxophone. And the fact that you said you didn't have a lot of friends as a kid, I think that lends itself really nicely to probably sitting in your bedroom and learning something. Is that what happened?
Absolutely.
Learning instruments, at least growing up, the friends I had who got really proficient at an instrument were folks who did like spending a lot of time in their room by themselves, isolating. Because you almost got to do that to get great at something, don't you?
Yeah, I think so.
And I know you're saying your childhood was absolutely perfect, but do you think at all those sessions of learning and practicing was an escape from anything?
Yeah, my mom would agree with you that she felt like I was escaping. Music itself wasn't just an escape from the environment that she had helped to create.
Right.
I think she feels some guilt about that because you could classify me as probably a recluse at this point in my life.
In general.
Yeah. But I do think that you need some solitude within which to work and to particularly do the repetitive kind of work that it takes to become good at anything.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is, so I didn't have it with an instrument, but things would get hectic at home. And I did have this ritual where I would go and I'd get on a 10-speed bike and I'd go up to my elementary school, and it was this very, very tight band of sidewalk that went around the entire length of it. And I would ride this BMX bike as fast as humanly possible in a circle. And it took all my concentration not to like crash into the wall. And I would do that for a couple hours. And then now all my hobbies are, I do motorsports. So to me, going to the racetrack on a motorcycle is that same exact thing where I have got to focus entirely on that moment or I'm going to crash. And there's so much relief in that.
Yeah. And being prepared for that moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's like improv, you know, you're constantly practicing to look like you're doing it on the fly. You know?
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're playing music, and now this was just a guess for me because when I would try to encourage people to check you out back in 2004 or 5, to me, I thought you were the closest thing to Prince that I had as a kid. Did you like Prince? Did you worship him?
Oh, I loved Prince.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's it, right?
I think Prince is the best recording artist America has produced.
Well, I like that statement.
Overall.
Yeah, that's great.
For all that he's done.
And now that you're old like me, isn't it even doubly mind-boggling that he was making those albums as a kid? I mean, he was so young, right?
Yeah, he was. I think he started 17.
Yeah. Well, how old is he in Purple Rain? Like, he was older than me, so as a kid, I was like, oh, he's an adult. But now I realize, like, the star of Purple Rain is a child.
What? 84 was Purple Rain, so he was 25, 26.
25.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's already written Purple Rain?
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's intimidating, isn't it? Makes me feel terrible about myself.
You think about a song like Darling Nikki, that's a beautifully arranged song. It's nasty and raunchy as it is. It's beautiful. And he wrote that at 24. You know, 24.
So were you immediate on the Prince train? Were you like early in on it?
Yeah, that was probably one of my biggest inspirations other than the local groups. My father really got me into Prince early on.
Uh-huh.
And I used to tell the story all the time about him waking me up in the middle of the night and just like, look, you can be like this. You can be like this.
Oh, really?
The back of the album.
So your dad felt like you had some kind of gift.
Yeah, because I was constantly beating on shit and very rhythmic.
Were you singing?
I wasn't singing.
You weren't?
Yeah,
that's scary, right?
Yeah, it was my least favorite thing to do.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Even still?
Well, I'm catching up now.
Uh-huh.
I probably do that more than I do anything else now.
Right.
Yeah, but then I just it didn't make sense to me.
So the obvious parallels to me about you and Prince are you're both, whatever you'd call it, multi-musicianal. You play a bunch of different instruments, right?
Yeah.
As did he.
Yeah.
And you guys have a similar singing style, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, the thing that you guys both have in spades is there's so much sexuality to both of your musics.
Oh,
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Your shit is super sexy.
Mm-hmm. It is.
It is, right? Yeah, like you put it on, you feel like you're fucking. And that's a weird, hard thing to capture. It's very rare.
It's very visceral, yeah.
It is very visceral.
And I think that for, I feel like it comes from that transition from the sharecropper blues to like blues we all know, like Muddy Waters or Howlin' Wolf. Those guys were trying to be overtly sexual in their music. And I do think that was what Prince was about as well, or Al Green.
Yeah.
Where I think mine was more of an emergent kind of thing. You know, it was still a blue collar kid, you know.
Yeah.
And I, you know, in my house, you know, like I said, everything was so insular and I was kind of isolated. So I was just trying not to make too much noise, you know.
Right.
I'm playing. So everything's kind of not just not mellow, but subtle, you know what I mean? And so it's intense in that way, and that there's so much that I have to say, but I can't say it too loud. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it comes off as kind of a similar thing. I'm not necessarily trying to be sexual any more than like maybe Curtis Mayfield. Maybe
he's also very fucking sexual.
You know what I mean? But I think he was trying to make a point with his music, you know, a different kind of point.
Yeah.
Where Prince, you know, if he wanted to be sexual, that's what he was going to be.
Yeah, but not unlike in real life and in the music, being very confident sexually is a pretty rare thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it takes a lot of confidence to go down that lane as a musician.
Yeah.
And were you conscious of it? You're like, I'm committing to this. Or you were just being you and it happened to be sexual?
I just happened to be inspired by Prince.
Oh, okay.
And Jimi Hendrix. And,
very
and especially Muddy Waters and Sugarfoot from the Ohio Players. And like Muddy Waters and Sugarfoot weren't sexual to me. They were hard men. Like they drank whiskey, you know what I mean? And they just made music in these dark kind of almost dungeony slave sex places. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it got kind of, just
again, and it's going to, you have a very
confused
romantic view of it all, like I kind of do.
Yeah.
So they become archetypes, right?
Yeah.
They're kind of gangster, they're kind of gnarly, they're all these things.
Yeah.
It's funny too how much we incorporate those details in why we like a musician or not like a musician, right?
Yeah.
Because I have liked in the past people who are probably not that great, but they have something. They have this they fill some romantic notion I have of a certain type of person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. And I was into punk for the same reason, and just like particular kinds of punk music. Like I love the Stooges and I love Bad Brains, and it sounded hard.
Did you like Fishbone?
Well, I got into Fishbone late.
Oh, okay.
But we actually became pretty cool too.
Oh, really?
Because we were kind of the same age, and they were always giving me
Fishbone.
lovely compliments, and they were probably the best live group I've ever seen.
Yes, I've seen them live a couple times, and it's incredible. Yeah. Oh, I love them. So I'm gonna kind of fast forward. So you're playing music in high school. Are you popular? Or are you doing your own thing and you're a musician?
Well, it was both. I was told I was popular.
Okay,
and so
you're cute. So that had to help.
I tried to take advantage of that as much as I could.
Sure,
but I loved being alone.
Yeah,
I loved walking alone.
Did you in high school? Were you drinking or smoking pot or doing any of that?
No,
really,
no,
not at all.
I tried weed when I was 15, and then my mom was like, "You have to promise me that you're not going to do that." I was like, okay. So I didn't.
Yeah.
And I tried it again when I was 27. That sucked.
Oh, wow.
Because I was working on this incredible song. I smoked. I went upstairs. I came back to listen. And I swear the song sounded like fucking Magnum P.I.
That's not what you want to hear.
It was terrible. I was like, I turned it off and erased it.
By the way, I bet a lot of songs could easily sound like Magnum P.I. if you bring them down. And you weren't into drinking?
Well, I am now.
Okay.
But I wasn't then. I just didn't.
Interesting.
I would have.
Uh-huh.
It just wasn't given to me.
I had a similar thing. So I knew my dad was an alcoholic. So I purposely was not drinking. All my friends were drinking. And then finally in 11th grade, I'm like, I'm doing this. And I had to sit down with my mom because I had that kind of relationship with my mom as well, where it's like I was dead honest with her all the time. And I go, look, I know you don't want me to do this, but I need to find out myself.
Yeah.
Within a very short time, the police were at my house one morning, and it forced me to lie about the night before, so I could basically we had driven through this dude's gate in a truck and gave him a lawn job and blah blah blah. What we had decided, there was three of us, that it would be least hard to prove if one of us didn't have a story. So the story was I was blacked out in the backseat and missed the whole thing, which wasn't true. But we're like, oh, now the cops can only talk to two people. This proved fruitful. We never got tried with anything. But I had to perpetuate this lie to my mom, which was like, Mom, I don't remember what happened. I was in the back seat, passed out cold of my car. And then apparently we were in a truck, blah, blah, blah. So she rightly was very concerned. She's like, you can't drink now. You just can't until you graduate. And I said, okay. And then I didn't. Like you, I just listened to my mom.
Yeah.
And then I graduated and then promptly became an alcoholic, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, so you didn't party. So you graduate high school and then you moved to Texas?
Yeah, we moved to Texas.
The whole family did. You and your mom.
Well, my mom and her new husband and the stepbrother I told you about, who got into the big
slanging white powder, snort, flake.
Yeah.
Okay. I would have loved to have met him in the 90s.
Oh, man.
What town in Texas do you move to?
Oh, Arlington. Which now they have all these big arenas there. And
right.
But then there was
not the place to move.
No.
Right.
Us and them, like bugs.
Did you get a chance to go over to Austin at all while you lived there?
No.
You've since, I assume, been.
I have, obviously to play.
To me, if I had to say a city, vibe-wise, was your alter ego, I would say Austin if I had to pick a city.
Yeah, I keep hearing that.
That
man.
feels to me like very similar to your just general artistic vibe.
I keep hearing that, man.
The saying there is "Keep Austin Weird," right? That's on all the bumper stickers. That's their city motto is "Keep Austin Weird." And I would say keep Van weird. If I had to give you a bumper sticker, it would be stay weird and sexual.
Weird and sexual.
Keep Van sexual.
Keep Van sexual,
That's
yeah.
about where it is.
So you left Texas at what age to go to Atlanta?
Then I left there at 17
Okay.
because my mom wanted.
Monica's from Atlanta, by the way.
Are you?
Oh, right.
So if you guys
I am.
need to start speaking Atlanta
speak.
behind my back, feel
Well,
free
I'll
to.
try to do not be too derogatory.
Oh, you can say whatever you need to say about it. That's really okay.
My mom she had this whole idea of fantasy of me going to Morehouse college, and so I went there for a year.
And what were you going to study? Or what were you?
I wanted
Did
to
you
study economics only because I knew they didn't have an economics department, so I figured that would get me, set up some kind of frustration and tension,
Okay.
so I could get out of there.
Interesting.
And so
I wanted to major in naval warfare, which they did not have.
I had to leave because they didn't have it.
They had neither boats nor access to water. So that was a short-lived thing, and good or bad experience in your year in college.
I discovered black elitism, which I had never seen, to be honest, in the Midwest. And I discovered homosexuality, which I hadn't experienced. I'm not homosexual, but
Yet. Wait till the end of this interview.
Right.
He's going to work really hard.
To me, homosexuality at that point was like Liberace and Rock Hudson.
Right.
I was as
Crazy archetype. Yeah. Exaggerated.
And so to, be approached in that way,
Yeah.
it was an education in itself. So that was good.
And I think this is relevant because there's a lot of variation regionally of the black experience, at least from my outside perspective. So I'm from Detroit.
Yeah.
It was the whole time I lived there, the blackest city in the country. It's 92% black.
Yeah.
Super segregated.
Yeah.
Not a great place to be black. If I'm just objectively, I think it was very hard to be black there. We would occasionally go to Atlanta and I would go, oh my God, I love this place. There's so many middle-class black folks. Again, this is all from, I could be completely wrong, but this is what it appeared to me. The difference between Detroit and Atlanta was there's just this thriving black middle class in Atlanta where you'd see them at all the same Chili's chain restaurants and they got a new car. And I just found that so encouraging when I was younger and I would go to Atlanta. So does that feed into the elitism?
Well, when you're talking about the King family and their ties into the black college setting there, they're elite, they're royalty. Yeah. And then it just
Meaning the descendants of Martin Luther King?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it just extends down from there, and whoever they hand that to is in that moment now the new king, the new.
They're
royalty.
the Dalai Lama of
It was just annoying. Coming from a place where we literally would borrow shit from all of our neighbors. Anything. It could be. I'm having a barbecue and I need furniture.
Yeah. I need the barbecue.
Yeah, you need the barbecue. So it was much more of a village. Even as much as I didn't necessarily have friends in the neighborhood, we all took care of each other.
Right.
In Dayton. And that was very obvious to me even as a child.
Yeah.
All of that changed. Not only, of course, when I went to Texas. Which then I was introduced to racism on another
Sure. I feel like Dayton's a nice middle ground between kind of or at least what I saw in Atlanta versus what I saw in Detroit. Would you say that's true?
I think Dayton was much more like Detroit, just in terms of it was rough.
Yeah.
And definitely gritty. But in your particular setting, like your neighbors took care of you.
Yeah.
In that setting. And I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Being able to feel like I could get off the bus or walk home from school safely.
Yeah.
And I think that was important.
Even sitting here talking to you, I just, do you know who Joy Bryan is?
No.
She's an actress. She's black. She and I were married on a TV show for like 6 years together. And I interviewed her recently and we were talking about white privilege and how that is a hard concept if you're white to swallow because no one's life feels privileged, right? Like everyone's life feels like a struggle.
Yeah.
But I can tell you objectively, of course I have so much privilege. It's really true. There's so much white privilege. And even hearing you say that just clicked for me where it's like, I've never thought, wow, if I move to another part of this country, I'm going to be treated completely different. That's something that would not cross my mind. Like, so yeah, when you move to Texas, all of a sudden you're getting treated different, right?
Yeah. From day one. Where a guy was like, hey, you're black. And I was like, man, who told you?
So this was not Stevie Wonder.
No,
this is someone who could
right
see you.
on. Like we landed right on. And it was on, like fights every day, and they had never seen us.
Right.
And that's how you.
That's a very generous way to say.
That's how you respond to something that you feel like is threatening.
Yes,
but it was battles.
So the school that you went to in Arlington, what was the percentage there that was black?
Yeah, they actually bust in black kids from what was an area called Grand Prairie.
Okay.
Where if you're a hip hop head, DJ Premier came from.
DJ Premier.
Yeah.
My only Texas hip hop I loved was the Ghetto Boys.
Oh, well, shit.
They're from Fifth Ward.
Yeah, Houston. That's awesome.
Oh, I love Gangster Boogie. I could sing every single lyric on every one of those.
My
albums.
son loves Ghetto Boys.
The original stuff is insane. Like if that stuff came out now, songs about like serial killers.
Yeah, exactly.
December 1st, 1966, a damn fool was born with the mind of a lunatic. I shut up and killed, but system fucked around and let me live. Like who's writing a rap song about being a twisted serial killer?
Bushwick Bill.
Bushwick Bill.
Yes. Awesome.
Well, another man's getting on his knees to fuck. Brother like me still standing up. He shot someone. No, I think his girl shot him in Detroit, weirdly.
Oh,
Bushwick got shot by his girlfriend.
I didn't.
And I think it was in Detroit. Monica will find out exactly where this shooting happened. Anyways, so you moved to Atlanta, and now yet a third version. How does it differ from both Dayton and in Arlington?
Oh, man.
Like you're not feeling, it doesn't sound like you're feeling the thing I thought I was observing, like, oh, wow, this is a place where black folks are thriving. Did you feel that?
I think that most people, even black people, felt that way about Atlanta. And there are, records, you can find P-Funk records that, laud that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They come up.
Oh, so it went that far back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But.
I mean, it was the original home of Freaknik, no? Am I right about that? Yeah. I was so mad they shut that down before I could attend. I just thought that would be a really good time. Freaknik.
I went to one.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Did you perform at one?
I didn't perform, but
you're too sexual for that Freaknik crowd. It would have exploded like a hydrogen bomb. you sprinkling a little Van Hunt on top of an already turbocharged scenario, it could get nasty.
But I remember we were listening to NWA at like one of those Freakniks, and it was like the one with the Bootsy sample. So Freaknik was nice.
Yeah.
I just
I've been calling on Twitter for them to bring it back.
Freaknik?
Yeah.
I'm surprised they wouldn't. That seems like an easy one.
Yeah. Yeah, they tried to do a weirder, higher end version of it right on an island recently, and it all went sideways. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, everybody got sued.
Yeah, everyone got sued. Everyone had to go home.
And it was like advertised as like luxury tents or whatever, and then you saw it and it was like FEMA tents. They were all sleeping in, and there was like...
What was that
Did you try to go?
I forget. No. I'm not cool enough for that.
Go.
I am not cool enough.
That would have been one of the biggest shockers ever if Monica said, hey, so I'm not going to be around next week. I'm going to this luxury tent compound in the Caribbean. I feel bad. I feel like at first I enjoyed like watching the disaster of it all, and then I felt really bad because it seemed pretty well intentioned. Maybe.
I don't know.
It's not. It was always a money making endeavor.
I think it was. I'll find out. But yeah,
and we should avoid getting sued. But it's maybe best that we don't specifically name which group that was.
I'm gonna.
Which is kind of cooler, actually.
Yeah. Let them find out. Okay, so I got derailed. So you're in Atlanta, and then you're playing a lot. But when I was reading about you last night, I hit the fucking ceiling when I found out you wrote Hopeless. I literally went, no way. I can compare it. The best thing I can compare it to. Did you like The Sopranos?
Yeah. Definitely.
Love The Sopranos. I had only loved one TV show prior to The Sopranos, and that was Northern Exposure, right?
Okay, yeah.
Did you ever see that show?
I saw it a few times.
Okay. So I love Northern Exposure, and I fucking worship Sopranos. And I thought, these two things have nothing in common. Why are these the two shows I like? So I one time watched Sopranos with the commentary from the creator, David Chase.
Yeah.
And during that, he just happens to mention like, well, I got the idea for Sopranos back when I was the head writer on Northern Exposure.
No way.
And I went, no way. That's why I love those two things. I love David Chase.
Yeah.
So when I loved Hopeless. Oh my God, I love that song.
Oh, man.
Yeah, on the Love Jones soundtrack.
Love Jones, yeah.
My good friend Ken Kennedy was the first to buy that CD, Love Jones. I had a whole summer of Love Jones.
Ken Kennedy.
Ken Kennedy.
The best name ever.
Arguably the best name in the biz. So, but because this dovetails nicely into that, that's the first song you write. Is it the first song you write in Sal?
It's the first song that's published.
Oh, that's published.
Yeah.
Oh. And how do you go from you're at this college you don't want to be at to actually getting into it professionally?
Oh God. So, like my last year in Arlington, very nice kid invites me into his family and into a studio. Nice dad who happened to be racist, but he liked me.
Yeah, that can happen, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
I think that's happened to me a lot as well.
Yeah.
Like
It's why it doesn't hold water when guys go like, "Oh, I'm not racist. My girlfriend's black." It's like, well, no, you can be racist and have a black girlfriend.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And so, but he took a liking to me, you know, and so he let me hang with his son, play on their instruments, and they had a whole band thing going. And so the kid flew out to Los Angeles, and he came back and he was like, "Man, these guys I met with, they hated everything except the songs you played." And so, but he said he wasn't going to do anything with it. But that let me know that I had a shot at maybe doing this shit. So, and my mom was like, "You're going to go to Atlanta." I was like, "Okay, I'm going to study economics," knowing that was going to like blow up. And so I didn't know what was in Atlanta. I said, well, shit, it's got to be more than what's in Arlington.
Yeah.
So I go there and I spend a year in school. And then I'm looking around the scene and I get a job with this janitorial service. But the president of the little janitorial service runs a record company.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So he hires me and
It sounds like shit you'd see in Nashville.
Yeah,
But that's how Atlanta is too. Like,
Yeah.
Everyone somehow.
And he's paying me like $100 a week. And he's like
You're cleaning like office buildings?
Yeah. And he's taking $25 out of my cash, and he'll tell you like, well, don't you want to pay your taxes? You need to pay your taxes. I'm just hold on to this for you. Those kind of conversations.
Sure. But he's paying you under the table, I assume, and there ain't ever going to be any taxes.
But so I'm responsible. Anyway, leave school, and he introduces me to a bunch of guys in the little local hip hop scene. That was just really burgeoning at that point.
And you get on with people easy?
No, but
the music speaks for itself.
Yeah, and I feel confident in the music and presenting the music. And so as long as we're in the room and we're making music, I'm fine.
Yeah.
So I got on with a couple guys, and one of them winds up in prison for another cocaine thing.
Sure.
And when he left, he was supposed to go and meet another connection who was going to hook us up with our own studio. So I call him because we're going to ride over there together. The police answer the phone.
Great.
And they're like, no, Keith is busy.
He's in the middle.
And they're like, who is this? And I'm like, I'm just going to call him back. And so I know where he's going, where we were supposed to go. So I catch the bus and go over to this studio. And I meet with the guy. It was a very nice guy named Victor Reed. And he essentially brings me into his home, his family, and lets me run his studio.
Really?
Where I really learned how to record.
Wow.
And so I did so many rap demos with like the Jermaine Dupri's, the Dallas Austins, the TLCs, the Escapes. And
which TLC stuff?
Oh, it was...
If you tell me you worked on Waterfall, I'm going to
oh, no.
collapse on the ground.
I wasn't working on their material at the time. I just
wanted to say Waterfall.
But it's cool when, Dallas and
Jermaine Dupri, I don't know much about him, but he's hyper talented. He's super successful. Yeah.
Criss Cross and all that. But, they were using me to like, hey, can you put our show tape together? You know what I mean? Or little things like that, which was really proving ground for me.
Yeah.
and Bobby Brown was coming through the studio.
Really?
And then, and the way the studio was set up, it was way in the back of a rehearsal studio. So they would all come and rehearse and then come and chill back there.
Rehearse to go on tour?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then come and chill back there in the studio.
Yeah.
And so I would hear all these stories, and sometimes they, hey, can you do a beat with my nephew, or stuff like that. And so that's how.
You're getting the scraps.
Exactly.
Yes, and that's such an important thing for people to hear. Like, you just gotta, like, if you have a desire to be involved in any one of these industries that's almost impenetrable. Yeah. You just gotta take what you can fucking get and get around it, right? You just, like, I think people think they got to be a star, they got to be this or that. It's like, no, you just got to be around it. Yeah, right. Absolutely. Especially if you're confident. And, you feel like your stuff is quality and can compete. Why not? And do you have a 4-track at home? Are you putting your own music together? No, at this point, the only time I'm working on recording equipment is inside the studio, but I'm essentially living at the studio. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And so he had a little 8-track reel to reel. And he also had a 4-track. Okay. Which Dallas's engineer took a liking to me. A lot of people like you. I'm very envious of this. Almost all your stories involve someone making you a family member within 10 minutes of meeting you.
That's another thing for people to take into consideration.
It's true. Don't be a fucking asshole.
Nice. Yeah.
I was so busy trying to impress everyone I met at that age that I don't think anyone ever took me under their wing. They're like, all right, no, you got it all figured out, hotshot. Why don't you go fucking do it? Go bang your head against the wall.
Well, I think I was quiet too. So, yes. I wasn't threatening in that way. And they figured, he does good work and he keeps his mouth shut. Yeah. So those are, people underestimate those qualities.
They really do underestimate non-threatening.
Yes.
That's a very big skill.
Yeah. So how do you end up writing Hopeless? Right. So like I said,
they say I'm hopeless, 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 hopeless.
Talk about
then
confidence.
A penny with a hole.
I'm the worst singer, but I will sing.
Singing his song in front of him.
I love that.
It's great.
That's one of the best things about the Detroit shows. Is that so many people
thought they were singers. That sounds right.
I love that. I go out into the audience and they're just singing away.
Well, we drink a lot in Detroit too. It kind of makes you a little confident.
Detroit
sure.
People.
Do you get asked, or do you put on your selling shoes? Like, how do you end up in that scenario to write Hopeless? Okay, so Dallas's engineer shows me how to engineer, does a lot of stuff for me, and introduces me to Dion and her. Dion Ferris, who sang the song. And who was from Arrested Development.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, I didn't even know that until last time I was reading. And I loved Arrested Development.
And Dallas's engineer had engineered their first hit, Tennessee.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So he turned me on to them.
Yeah.
And they came and saw my band rehearse at that same rehearsal studio.
Okay.
And she was like, I hate your band, but I like you. And then I'm being the loyal guy. I go to the engineer. I'm like, she doesn't want my band. She wants me. What do you think? Yeah. They're like, what the fuck do you think, man? You got to roll with what's rolling. Your band ain't rolling.
Wow. So that is the cliche story of every musician, right? Is at a certain point they kind of try to peel you off. Yeah. And you got to roll. Say it again. What do you say?
You got to roll with what's rolling.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. Okay. So, and is she at that moment when she's saying she likes you, is she thinking specifically, I want you to write something for me? Or is she thinking she wants to collaborate with you?
Yeah. She just wanted me in her band.
Okay.
Yeah. She had just finished her record.
Does she maybe also want to have dinner with you or no? No. Okay.
Yeah.
Really?
She wasn't interested at all.
That's a bummer. I guess. I don't really even know what she looks like, but.
She was cute.
Oh, then that's a bummer. Yeah. She married or something?
Closely.
What's wrong with this woman?
Hair.
She didn't want to go to dinner with you?
Yeah. So she was really nice though.
Yeah.
And a couple of years older than me, which, at 22, it's like might as well be in a lifetime.
Yeah. And you, do you guys write, do you write Hopeless knowing it's already going to be on that soundtrack, or do you write it and then it somehow ends up on that soundtrack? Oh,
okay. So I go with her and her A&R guy, who was Randy Jackson.
Right.
At this time.
Something else I learned last night.
Yeah. And he's just a guy at that point with a very big voice. Yeah. And he's like, hey, I like some of your stuff. And, so I'm constantly running around playing songs to people here and there. Yeah. It's like, I like your stuff. Maybe you should give it Dion and just see if she'll demo some of your stuff. So I gave her a bunch of songs. She just happened to pick that one.
Oh, wow.
And we went,
so you had written that for yourself.
I'd written it for actually somebody who kind of sounded like Donny Hathaway, because the song always sounded like Donny Hathaway to me with the Rhodes and, you know, so I was like, anybody who sounds like, at this point, I still hate singing.
Okay.
So anybody who sounds like Donny Hathaway, I'm going to get this song to.
Right.
But Randy, who's an excellent A&R, he's way better at A&R than he's ever done anything else, but nobody knows that.
He is.
Yeah.
Okay, because I got to say, my introduction to Randy Jackson was through American Idol.
Yeah.
And I was always going, are they telling us this guy is super talented? Because his notes to me didn't seem terribly helpful. You know what I'm saying? Like when Harry Connick Jr. came on, I was like, oh, that guy's clearly a musical genius. Like the way he would break shit down. And in fact, my wife, who also is a musical genius, she would hear the thing and she'd go, oh, he's flat on this and then he's sharp here and he blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you're full of yourself. And then Harry Connick would say the exact same thing and she would like do a backflip. She'd be so excited. But anyways, I'm glad to hear you say Randy Jackson was legitimately awesome at his job, because I just didn't know if I was being told.
Well,
Jimmy Iovine too. I didn't really know who Jimmy Iovine was when he joined American Idol, but then I saw the Defiant Ones. Now I think he's a genius.
Yeah, and I think that you would need to spend time with Randy for him to show you
his
secret sauce. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean,
but a gregarious, likable guy, right? You must have been so attracted to what he's a bigger in life figure even then, I would imagine.
Yeah, but what I recognized early on was that all of that is a kind of presentation that he gives to people, because he's a shy person.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
His way of disabling, you know, the confrontation with people is to be aggressive. So I learned that from him. Yeah. And I started doing that for myself, and it helps, you know. So when I meet people, I'm like, hey, how you doing? You know,
you come at them. Yeah.
You know, and it kind of allows you to arrest the situation.
Yes.
And until you can get comfortable with them. So that's what he does.
Right.
And but if you actually hang with him for a minute, you know, an hour in, he starts dropping gems. You know what I mean? Maybe you ought to do this. And then he gets real with you really, really fast.
And he just has incredible instincts. Would you say that's his gift?
Man, the greatest I've been around.
Right. Yeah. Yes. That's cool. And so he eventually becomes your manager, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys are tight.
Definitely.
Okay. So Hopeless happens. It is large. It's hugely successful.
Yeah.
Right. And now I'm assuming, let me ask you, are you going, oh, fuck, man, I'm going to be able to make a living writing music? Is that where you're at that moment? Is that what you're thinking? Or are you thinking, oh shit, I'm going to be able to be? What's your ego doing right now?
You being a Midwestern blue collar guy, like your first check, what did you think?
I thought it'd be my last check.
Right.
Yeah. I still think that.
Right.
Today, sitting here, I'm like, they're going to come any minute and go like, who are you kidding? You live on a dirt road, motherfucker.
Right.
Yeah.
Get your ass up.
Yeah. We caught you, okay? I don't know how you slipped through the cracks, but time to go home. So you had that too.
Definitely.
Okay, so you're but weirdly, as much as I have that, I also have fits of megalomania.
Yeah.
Okay, so and I really was thinking this between you and I, the parallels. There's no obvious parallels between you and I. You're Van Hunt, I'm Dax Shepard. Those just on the surface seem very opposite, but 2-year-old divorce, 3-year-old divorce, single mother, right? All these different things, Midwest.
Yeah.
I had experiences early in my career where I thought, oh, wow. So this is really going to happen. I'm going to be Adam fucking Sandler. Because the first movie I was in cost $19 million and made $60. It was seen as a very big success.
Yeah.
In fact, Adam Sandler said, oh, do you want to write something for our company? And that all happened.
Yeah.
So my ego did go fucking bonkers. Yeah. And I was like, oh, so I'm about 4 more steps away from being Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Of course, I was not 4 steps away from being Adam Sandler. And I feel like any of these endeavors, and be it music or acting or whatever it is you're constantly evaluating, where am I? Where am I going? What's now real? What is it? So did you have that? Because you had lots of moments in your life where you must have thought, oh, goddamn, I'm going to be Prince.
Well, it's complex, because at no point, I try to explain this to my girlfriend, thinks I'm crazy, but at no point do I ever lose the confidence that I'm on the level with Prince.
Right.
And even more so, somebody like Thelonious Monk, which to me is through the roof.
Yeah.
So at no point do I lose confidence that I'm
Mingus. Do you like Mingus?
on that level. Yes. Love Mingus.
Okay.
I love his book too.
Yeah.
But
you ever see that documentary about him like moving out of his? He's got this huge loft and he's got to move out, but he just is physically incapable of moving out. You ever see that documentary?
Is this with Joni Mitchell? Or no?
I can't remember who else is in it, but we used to watch it a ton when I lived in Detroit. And he's so scatterbrained. He's such a genius, Charlie Mingus. And he's being evicted from this huge space he has. And he's there to get all of his shit out, but he can't help himself from going through the history of it all. And then he'll get really derailed. Yeah. And then he'll just walk over to the bass and just play it for 35 minutes. And then he walks back. He never accomplished it. They end up like the police just throw his shit on the sidewalk. That's like the end of the thing. He's just standing there with everything he owns. It's wild.
Damn.
But to watch his brain work and watch how he's moving through the world, he was probably artistic to the point where he couldn't function so well.
Yeah.
Okay, so you always have the confidence that you are ultimately talented.
Yeah.
And you have a voice.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, crystal clear. You have like a point of view.
Yes.
Yes.
However, the idea that I can articulate that to an audience, I don't have that confidence.
Oh, okay.
And I don't have the confidence that once I've articulated the point, even if I can, that they're going to receive the point and then receive it and process it in a way in which it returns as some kind of revenue stream for me.
Right.
So
monetizing this thing is hard.
Yeah.
Right?
I've never had confidence that I am capable of doing that. So if it wasn't going to be somebody else doing it, that wasn't going to happen for me.
Right.
So,
i.e. Randy Jackson in a way. Yeah.
Yeah. Or even to a larger extent, the musical industrial complex.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Because from my point of view, when you had Dust and Seconds of Pleasure that were getting radio play, right? You're nominated for a Grammy off of Dust, right? Your first album.
Yeah.
To me, at that moment, it seems you and John Legend are on the exact same path.
Sure.
Do you think of him as a peer? You think about him at all?
Well, John is from the Dayton metropolitan area.
So he
from
is?
Springfield.
Oh.
Yeah. And
okay.
Was one of the first people, along with Kanye and Questlove from the Roots, to reach out and say, "Hey, I like what you're doing.
Oh, how cool!
Keep doing it." You know what I mean? And you need to hear that.
Yes.
As a young person coming up, and they were all really, really good with that. I appreciated that, and so John actually had me come over and help him produce a song here and there, and so.
Well, you eventually teamed up with him and Joss.
Yes,
and did Family Affair later, right?
And we hooked up before and after that. I did think that we were on the same trajectory, but John, much like D'Angelo, is more integrated with the culture at the time,
with the zeitgeist and pop.
Yeah. And John on the pop side and D'Angelo on the hip hop side. Than I was. I'm somewhere between Prince and the Stooges.
Well, you're not fitting nicely into one of the categories. We're not sure what station we should play you on, right? We're not. So
and I got that.
And you were comfortable with that?
It wasn't like it was a badge for me. It's just that's just where I was.
But secretly you must wish, okay, I'm going to be true to this angle I have, this point of view I have. It'd certainly be nice if it did break through and became...
Yeah. And Randy
was Prince, because what the fuck were people thinking with Prince? But he just forced everyone to go, oh no, not, he created a genre, I guess.
Well, it was both Prince and Randy who explained to me that, he had to do disco. That's what broke for him. Was that he did his first record and they were like, this is great, but now what are we going to do to get
Erotic City's on the first?
No, it was Bambi. I don't know if you, no, not Bambi. Well, I'm trying to think of a song. Soft and Wet was on his first album. There weren't any big hits. Right.
And it was really dirty.
It was...
well, let me just say...
It was actually really musical.
Oh, okay. But he had a song like Jack Me Off or something.
No, that was on the Dirty Mind album.
Oh, okay, okay.
Not far from there.
Because my mom, who was the least censoring human being you could possibly have as a parent, I was allowed to look at Playboy when I was like 9 at the kitchen table. She didn't care. She's like, nudity's fine. Weirdly, I got Prince, I think Little Red Corvette. I got my uncle gave me the album. And then I went to the tape store and I'm like, I'm going to get everything this guy's ever made. And then I got Dirty Mind And my brother told on me. He went to my mom and said, you got to look at the names of these songs on the back of this cassette tape. And she read it. And one was like, Jack Me Up or whatever. And she's like, I don't think you need this tape. I actually had to return that tape.
Oh, man.
Anyways, that's why I thought it was super sexual.
Oh. Well, the second album, though, he's sitting on the horse naked.
Yeah, which is a great look.
Yeah.
In general.
And so that's when he's got Bambi. And he had his first hit, which is escaping me right now. But it was playing off of disco, which was hot at the time.
Okay.
He evidently hated disco, but he knew that was what he had to do to get the song on the radio.
Yeah.
And that worked for him.
Yeah.
Well, by the time I come along, it's either integrate with something very, very more syrupy. I don't know, Britney Spears,
right?
Whatever's happening at the NSYNC.
Sure.
You know, which John could do more easily than I could. And on the hip hop side, D'Angelo could do more easily than I could.
Yes.
There wasn't really a place for me to tie into.
Yes.
And Randy was very articulate about that and explained it to me. It's like, you know, at this point, you can try and tie into this and really, really change your sound, or you can just kind of hold on to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Continue to do it until maybe we, you know, get you in here maybe later. And you might just become a niche artist, and you may not make as much money as some of these other guys, but I don't know. It depends on how important the music is to you.
Yeah. And so you feel like you made a decision, like an exact decision.
I do, because he put it to me that way,
right?
Which I always appreciate.
And you go, I'm just going to do me,
yeah,
basically, right?
Yeah.
Do you regret that at all?
No.
You don't? Okay, good.
No, but, you know.
Are you obsessed with money at all?
I'm not obsessed.
I am. I'm terribly obsessed with it. Yeah. It occupies way too much brain space for me.
Like you worry about not having it?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah. And whatever amount I think I could get that will make me feel safe.
Yeah.
Every time I've gotten that amount, I don't feel safe. And then there's a new amount I'm convinced if I had. Like when people go, why do these billionaires keep working? They already have $1 billion. I relate. I'm like, I bet if I had $1 billion, I'd feel broke.
Are you the person that overbuys?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm very frugal.
But do you have a lot of bars of soap in your house?
Yes. I love stockpiling. What a great thing to ask
that's
me.
So accurate.
It really is.
Do have a lot
In
of
fact, they
soap.
make fun of me at the house nonstop because if we get below like 12 rolls of paper towel, I'm panicked.
Yeah.
I am panicked.
So my lady is very similar. She came from a household where the scarcity was real.
Yes.
And
Yes.
So
that's
that translates into that.
In my dream world, there would be a warehouse on this piece of property. That would just be Costco. Yeah, it would be. There's no place I feel more comfortable than walking into Costco. And I go, ooh, there's a lifetime of soap in here.
And it's not like scarcity wasn't the same in my household. My mother, again, a Pisces, my father, a Pisces, they dealt with these things very, very differently.
Okay.
It's like, oh, son, you can take a shower over at your grandmother's.
Okay.
We're going to take you over to Isaac's later. You like him. You like his dog. You like their shower, right? You know, to be very, very much more relaxed.
Yeah, okay.
It's like, oh, yeah, well, that makes sense, Mom.
There's
well,
always
that's good.
Be an Isaac. Go shower at. It's fine.
So you weren't motivated by money per se,
no,
or at least not in an unhealthy.
I like
fashion.
the way Sly says it. I never wanted to have to need it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And did you keep your life small?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm good.
And to this
that
day,
way.
you still are that way.
I do.
Yeah. That's the key.
For sure.
I think.
Yeah.
It's tempting. Do you have any indulgences? Is there anything you bought? You're like, what was I thinking?
Clothes.
You love clothes.
But I don't have a bunch of them. I just have things that I really, really like.
Okay.
And they're generally expensive, unfortunately. It's the kind of world we live in.
Yeah. You came right out of the gates with a very funky style, which I appreciate.
Oh, thank you.
Well, like on the cover of Van Hunt, you're wearing a crazy hat. If I recall, you're wearing a purple jacket. Am I picturing it correctly?
Yeah.
It's a great look, but it is unique at that time.
And I didn't actually understand until I came to Los Angeles to actually do those records and they were hiring stylists. So I'm thinking I'm just going to tell the stylist what to get me, and it's going to be easy to find.
Yeah.
And they're like, actually, I don't know if you know about David Bowie or about this artist, but that's where your style is, and that's very expensive and it's very exclusive.
Yeah.
So that's when I really began to understand what it was I liked and why I liked it. And I don't know.
Again, I was just filling in the blanks. When I got that album, Van Hunt, and I looked at it, to me, I looked at this guy and I was like, this guy's got to be from New Orleans. Like, I felt like you had a weird, like, French Quarter vibe to you. I don't know why that is.
It's funny because if my girlfriend was there, she'd laugh because she always calls me the Frenchman.
Oh,
But I realized I had some crazy connection to France.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You do like a 23andMe thing, or what? How do you know you got a crazy connection?
What is that?
Well, you send you're like you spit in a cup, and then they tell you like you're 70%
ancestor.
Ukrainian or something.
Oh, I haven't done that.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to tell me you found out you're like 80% French or something.
No, I just love everything
You like
French.
culture.
French,
Yeah.
from Serge Gainsbourg to their food.
Okay, and you gone to Paris?
Yeah.
Have you ever fantasized about moving there?
No.
No. Okay, you don't like it that much.
Gotten that far. It's actually really cold.
It's cold, and you got to learn another language.
Well, I took French.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I mean, I could.
You could get by. Okay, I could
say
never.
help.
Okay, you could say help. That's a great word to
That's
know.
literally
If you
the
got.
only one you need to know.
It's like
Yeah.
help.
Okay, so you do dust. There's a cliche in music, right, that I've heard, which is your first album you spend your whole life writing,
Yeah.
and then in success, you're expected to write a second album like in a year.
Yeah.
Was that hard for you? Did you have that experience, or was it that wasn't an issue?
I think all of that is true.
Okay.
But it wasn't hard for me.
Okay.
And I credit my blue collar work ethic. Not to say that other callers don't have work ethics.
Sure.
It's just that I knew going in that that was true. I probably had all my whole life to write this first record, but that my second record was lyrically at least going to be better.
Yeah.
And I still believe that.
Well, being a girl is, again, it's a tongue twister. You must have thought, or did you think you had a pretty good amount of success right out of the gates?
Yeah.
And did you think that that was just going to continue and grow, or did you never think that, or you don't think about the future?
Yeah, I still, even because I was in on those meetings in the record company, and the reason why you heard Dust and Seconds of Pleasure was because there was literally a table in Capitol Records, black people on one side, white people on the other side. Black people saying we're
No
gonna,
Jewish folks? They're at the head of the table.
Well, they're
They're the
they're
ones.
at the head of the table. Literally, they were. And the black people were like, we're going to take Seconds of Pleasure over here to R&B radio. And the white people were like, we're going to take Dust over to college radio. And they shot them both out at the same time.
Yeah.
And right then I knew I was in trouble because you kind of needed both sides to work together
Yeah.
on a song.
Yeah,
And-
you're kind of opening up a two-front war by doing that.
Yeah, and there's competition now. Who's going to be the first to get their song off? And yet you're both pulling resources from each other.
Yeah.
So both Randy and I were like, I don't know about this bit. So, I kind of knew I was doomed at that point to forever continue to ride the same schism that Prince endured as well. But because he's coming off of the crazy international disco era where it wasn't that odd to think of things blended.
Yeah, right.
In
Well, there's a ton of fusion happening at that
exactly.
time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very different now after we've gone through crack and the epidemic and Clinton and NAFTA. And now things are much more segregated and obliterated in certain areas. It was just...
And does that slow down your how prolific you are?
No.
It doesn't.
No.
So do you write as much now as you wrote back then? It's harder when you get older, right? You're not as hungry.
Yeah, I don't commit to things.
Okay.
But yeah, I can write whenever I feel like writing.
And is writing easy for you?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And do things come to you? Like, will you get a whole song downloaded in the shower?
Yeah, or usually in my sleep. Yeah.
In your sleep?
Yeah.
How about driving? That's supposed to be a good
Definitely
one.
driving.
And you'll hear, what parts will you hear?
So usually if I'm driving and I can't have the radio on.
Right.
No one can be with me. This happens on the airplane too.
Well, we'll see. I'm going to join you on a couple car rides.
Yeah, man. And
I'll sit in the back seat and I'll be very quiet. You won't even know that. I'll lay down.
See, that would be weird. No, you'd have to sit up front with me and like tell jokes, like
right.
Then it would come. But
we'll write a Weird Al Yankovic song together.
No, man. Weird Al and what's my man, Corny Sax man. Kenny G.
Oh yeah, Kenny G.
Yeah.
Kenny G. Yeah. Kenneth G.
Accordion
and French horn or clarinet. What does he play?
Yeah.
So you'll be driving and you hear what generally do you hear first? Like the keyboard?
No, it's not specific like that.
Well, fucking make it specific for me, man. You got to explain it to my simpleton.
If you can imagine what a cloud sounds like,
Can't.
and like a metallic kind of spaceship poking through the cloud.
Okay.
I don't know if you can imagine what that might sound like.
Okay.
But it actually does have a sound. And that's just kind of undulating rhythm.
Yeah.
That's always there.
Okay.
Again, rhythmically is where it all starts for me.
Right.
So I always hear this kind of thing just going on. And then I can just do whatever I want to do on that rhythm.
Right.
So it could be. And then that it's kind of what they call ostinato in classical music. It's just this motif that's cycling.
Okay.
And then I just write.
And now that's just happening in the back of your brain, right? Like you have that, what's that thing you call where you can do like a loop, right?
Yes.
Your brain has that.
Yes.
So you put that on loop.
And that just
And now
cycles.
where do you go?
And so from there, we go into these kind of modalities, you know. I can go with something that's hard off of that. And so
you start fucking it up a little bit.
I could go into something soft and it's all there for me.
And when do lyrics enter the picture?
Right when I want to articulate the melody. But
so you let the melody inform the lyrics.
Well, not necessarily. I let the feeling of the music inform the lyric. But sometimes the melody
is that order ever reversed? Do you ever have like you think of a great sentence or you think of you jot something down in writing and you go, oh, I got to now find a melody that says what this.
Every now and then.
But mostly it's music first, lyric second.
Mostly it's just this kind of undulating conceptual cinematic feel for what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't know if you remember a song called Her December from the first record.
Yeah.
And that was one that I just happened to remember how it came about. And I felt Christmas and I felt December and I felt like Christmas has always been this kind of pretty but dark space for me. Okay. Because it only really comes alive at night, which is creepy. Because then the lights shine and Santa's weird to me. And
what do you mean? A heavyset guy with combat boots coming down your chimney? What's weird about that?
It's super fucking creepy to me.
A white guy with a huge beard. You're worried about him being in the house at midnight? Why?
Right.
Ho, ho, ho.
And so, people liked what's the Cat in the Hat, and they liked Wizard of Oz. That shit scared.
That stuff is pretty weird. Yeah.
So, those things come alive for me, and I started writing off of that.
Right.
It turns into kind of a concept.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in the frequency of that has compare it now. Like how old are you? 48?
47.
47.
Yeah.
I'm 43.
Yeah.
I'm gaining on you. Last week I turned 43.
Oh man.
I do find that I was certainly a lot hungrier to write.
Yeah.
I worked probably more as a writer than an actor, and that used to be so easy for me. And I'm finding, I don't know, through having kids, whatever it is, or just not as hungry, it's harder for me to write now.
Yeah.
Like sitting in that room by myself is a little more challenging.
Well, have you ever felt comfortable writing by yourself?
Well, I fucking hate writing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would imagine.
Do you know who Lawrence Kasdan is? Lawrence Kasdan is a very famous writer. He wrote like Jaws and Raiders of the Lost Ark, one of the biggest ever.
Yeah.
And his statement on writing is, writers are people who have agreed to do homework for the rest of their life. And that's exactly how I feel about writing. But yet I have to do it. I've been doing it since I was a kid. I started writing in 7th grade, short stories. And you've written short stories as well, right? Yeah. So I have to do it. And weirdly, I find a spot in the middle of it that I do love, but man, it's the starting it really that's I find to be challenging.
Yeah, well, like I told your wife, you strike me as the ideal person, the person you're sitting around with, and they're constantly just taking you off in different places, and you're like, well, wait, Dax, I wasn't even there yet. Wait. Okay, what about this? Okay, and it quickly turns into a kind of a nest of ideas.
That's true. So you're dead right. And Kristen is regularly annoyed by almost every time I leave the bathroom brushing my teeth, I have a new idea for a show, and I have to walk her through it, or a new idea for a movie. That part's really fun. I like it. It is the technical aspect of writing, and I know it exists in music as well, which is great idea. I love it. Ideas are worth nothing. It's all about execution. So now I got to crack these third acts, and I got to really build this emotional and all that. That's math. Mm-hmm. I love writing dialogue. If I got to sit down and just write fun dialogue, I would love writing. But the architecture of it, and increasing tension and all these things you have to do, that part is math, and that is frustrating. And that must exist in songs as well.
Yeah, I think they would call that the music theory and production. Mm-hmm. That, to be honest, because I know it happens so quickly. I don't even.
You just do it kind of instinctually, probably.
Yeah, it's my least favorite part as well. Certainly harvesting the ideas.
Yeah, beginning of ideas is intoxicating.
That's fun. I love finding artists who have stories to tell, and I love encouraging that out of them. You know, like I don't know if you have already, but you need to tell the story of the Midwest. Because you seem to have, you know, the smell of it and the taste of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I would go with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd love to see that happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I'll do it.
Noted.
I kind of did a Midwest story, even though it was set in California, but I think Hit and Run's a very Midwest movie. Mm-hmm. I implore you to watch that. Okay. Car chase love story.
Okay.
Made for $1 million. Real labor of love with my wife and I.
Nice.
So are you open to playing a song today?
Oh, sure, man. Yeah.
You would. Yeah. That would be a great, great honor for me.
Yeah.
So watch you 3 feet in front of me. That's all you can do is try.
Yeah.
All right. So what are you going to play for us, man?
I'm going to play Being a Girl.
Oh, jeez.
And then Seconds of Pleasure, and then Dust. But I'm absolutely going to murder all three. Because I haven't had time to practice.
All right.
We're not worried.
No.
So I'm like a retiree. It's like rehearsal. Every once in a while you meet a child that drives you wild with unmistakable downtown style. A winter coat and sexy tokes on camel smokes don't prepare you for a laugh that explodes. A princess and a mistress dressed in Sunday best to impress a fresh love interest. To set the stage, receive her praise and leave a sour taste that only gets sweeter as it fades. She just can't help being a girl. She just can't help being a girl. She just can't help herself. Full of spectacle and charm like nothing else. Being a girl. Being a girl. At the initial glance, she's making plans to build her a man. Like a T-Ford or an aeroplane, the girl wants a model romance. Fell in love with taming her new adventurer. 'Cause every rebel needs a woman's touch. But the fact is, she's an actress using the bedroom for practice, making them think his kiss is all she ever imagines. With a pocket full of rocket fuel, dragon strings that pull on a heart that's uncertain but beautiful. She just can't help being a girl. She just can't help being a girl. She just can't help herself. Full of spectacle and charm like nothing else. Being a girl. Oh no, the girl can't help herself. She is more than wonderful, wonderful. Oh no, the girl can't help herself. She is more than wonderful. Being a girl. I made it.
God damn. I'm on the verge of crying. Oh my God. And I just want to take a moment to express extreme gratitude that how lucky my life is that I, for, like I said, years drove around just hearing that song in my car, and then I'm staring at you in real life, hearing you. I'm so grateful right now. Thank you.
Man, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Dude, the opportunities.
Oh, so good.
Oh.
Does your lady make you sing for her?
No.
She doesn't.
No. Me singing and what I do is just, it doesn't really come up that often.
Uh-huh.
You know, but
Yeah.
I often catch her pulling up to the house and she's playing my stuff in the car.
Oh, I like that.
and
That's got to make you feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to urge my wife to sing, and she will very rarely do it for me as well.
Yeah.
And then on occasion, she performs publicly, and when I go see her, I have the same thing I just had just now, where it's like I'm on the verge of crying the whole time, because I'm just so proud of her that she can do that thing, and something that I could, if I dedicated the rest of my life to it, just couldn't do. It's so impressive. Have you found that it's been challenging for you to do your music live, because it's very kind of complicated on the album, and it's often the instrumentation is such that it's probably you're not going to do that live, right? Or even sitting here, like your music has so much going on in it. From the instruments standpoint, to break it down to an acoustic that holds up so well is really impressive. But is that challenging?
Well, definitely for me, because I tend to pay attention to everything that's going on. I don't know if you do this when you're making your movies, particularly as the writer and the director and the producer. I'm paying attention to everything on stage.
Right.
So I often forget lyrics. Like every night.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting lyrics, and I hate slow songs.
Okay.
I often will fall asleep on stage.
Oh, wow.
I will doze off.
Yeah.
Just like,
I can't imagine that's what the folks want to see.
I know. While I'm doing slows, it's just something
This
about
Saturday
them.
night, Van Hunt takes a nap in
Takes
front
a
of you
nap.
live at the.
It kills me.
We'll
man.
sell you the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge. He will sleep for 9 minutes before realizing he's gone out.
So it's kind of like the Trump briefings. You know, they
If
have
they're not saying Van Hunt over and
Yeah.
over again, you're out cold.
So we have to do these breaks in the songs, and that's probably what you hear when I'm performing them. Is I will literally just break off into another song. I'll also sing different lyrics.
And the guys playing with you just have to keep up.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I find that all those things you just mentioned, the distraction of that in my head while I'm acting in something that I'm also directing and that I've written is helpful, because I'm actually I'm so much more worried about this whole day, the whole scene, that I'm not concentrating on my acting, which weirdly liberates me to sometimes be better. Because I'm not self-conscious about it. I'm not even thinking about it. It's just happening.
Oh, that's good.
Completely unrelated, but do you like Talib Kweli?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Who wouldn't?
He's my other great obsession.
Dude,
I'm kind of obsessed with him.
He's so committed, man.
Oh, yeah.
Have you had him here?
Not yet, but I will the next time he's in town for sure, because I'm friendly with him and I go see him whenever he's here. And I just think lyrically he's so mind blowing.
And he's one of the coolest people. And once you start talking, like, you wouldn't even need to ask questions. Like,
No, I could leave the room probably for 40 minutes and it would take care of itself. Yeah. I absolutely love him. And then I watch him on Twitter, and his so much of his day is dedicated to fighting strangers. And I can relate, because I have the same hang up. I will fight with people I've never met in my life. As I say, they could be the crazy person at 7-Eleven with a parrot on their shoulder, but I'm going to take time now to argue with this person that I don't even know if they're sane. And he has that times 11. But anyways,
absolutely.
he's so special.
Yeah.
All right. So the last song is Dust.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And this was definitely my introduction to Van Hunt.
Oh,
I think
cool,
it was
man.
the first song I heard.
It's just another day, another episode. I'm hiding under the world. It's just another ray of merciful hope. I don't expect many more. I'm already insane. I'm already in pain. And if this time you don't rescue me, I won't blame you at all. Blame you at all. I know that I deep for you to risk the fall. I'm already insane. Yes, I am. I'm already in pain. I'm already insane. I am dust blown away over the edge. I am dust blown away over the edge. Dust blown away over the edge. I am dust blown away over the edge. Never thought that I would be the one with the wind in hand. So it's no blow to my sophistication that I've gone crazy again. I'm already insane. I'm already in pain. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, I'm already insane. Yeah. I'm dust blown away over the edge. I am dust blown away over the edge. Dust blown away over the edge. Dust blown away over the edge.
My God. Another hard one on the guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually had worked out a completely different ending last night, but
You scrapped it midway.
yeah.
You had to make a game day call.
It was midway too.
It was it?
Yeah. I was like,
You go,
I'm
you
not
know
gonna
what?
remember that.
Yeah. That was so fantastic. Van Hunt, people should go to your website,
Yes.
vanhunt.com. 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 Also, you released a new album in October of 17, which was but 3 short months ago, which is called The Fun Rises, The Fun Sets.
Well,
No?
it's an interesting story. Yes.
It's interesting. I did not do that.
That is no, that is the name of the album, and it was a kind of recycling of the release because it came out in May of 2015.
Oh, okay.
But I'll tell you why, because in August of this year, Blue Note released a 10-year-old record.
Oh, they did. 'Cause I was going to ask you about that, and I forgot to. But you, when you left Capitol, you went to Blue Note, and you recorded a whole album, and they decided not to release it, and then they would not give it back to you either.
Right?
Is that the most heartbreaking thing that can happen to you?
It is, but again, we're tough guys. We move on.
Oh, bullshit.
And that's
if
what
I
did.
wrote and directed a movie and I knew that I couldn't even share it with people, fuck whether or not it's going to be huge or not, but that it wouldn't even get a chance, that would be heartbreaking.
To be honest, I didn't recognize the impact of it until later, when actually there were some fans of mine who were like, if people had been able to witness that part of your canon, then what you did later on would have made more sense.
Right. It was
to them.
It was part of the evolution.
Yeah. And I hadn't actually ever thought about that. And I thought that was a good point. And then I kind of felt pissed off. But
yeah. But now it is available.
Now it's available.
How did that happen?
Well, I went back to Blue Note
with a gun.
A few of their artists were like, you made an album that for me was a transition between what I do as a jazz artist and what I thought everybody else was doing as R&B, hip hop, pop. That was a big transition record for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. So I went back and I told them that. And I said, wouldn't it be nice for you guys to put out this record you sat on and shelved on an artist that's still living?
Yes.
And they were like, well, man.
And also in their defense, probably the business models have changed.
Exactly.
And it used to be that they were going to have to sell those CDs to a Tower Records.
Yeah,
And they were
exactly.
going to put money behind it and print posters, right?
Exactly.
And now you can just release on the internet.
Exactly.
And it's virtually free for them to do that.
Exactly.
Okay, great. So what's the name of that album?
That's
And
popular.
That's popular.
Yeah.
And how do we get that? iTunes?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Spotify, whatever.
Spotify. Okay, you're offering the free route. That's nice of you.
But the release.
I'm telling you, go to iTunes and buy it. Cheap motherfuckers.
But we
You're going to spend $10 at Starbucks today.
We get Spotify checks. We split them.
Oh, you do?
With the record companies, yeah.
Are they substantial?
No.
They're not. Okay.
They're better than free, though.
Right. How did they compare to what radio play royalties used to be?
Radio play royalties are still the largest
They are.
of the royalties, yeah.
Okay.
For music.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just last question I have for you.
Other
before
than
you go.
sales.
Right. Yeah. But those two have diminished.
Yeah, totally.
My last question for you is, are you still working with other people? Do you at all aspire to write with other people or create for other people or just collaborate? Or are you just you?
My favorite thing to do is to do things like I was just trying to get you to do, which is like nudge you to make this movie. That I know would be so personal and difficult to make, but so much fun for everybody to watch. Because you're a funny guy, a naturally funny guy, but to see you make something that was so close to you.
Yeah.
And you know, that's where the explosions happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's my favorite thing to do with other artists. And I do that. I just bounce around the country wherever I'm needed and try.
And you've assembled a group of friends that are largely creative?
No.
You're still a lone wolf.
Yeah, I'm still a lone wolf. And I just get a call every now and then, it's usually in the middle of the night. So-and-so needs kind of an artist whisperer.
Yeah.
And so I show up and, you know, we hang out. And if I need to produce something, that's what I do.
Okay.
If I need to write something, I'll do it. If I need to play, I'll do it. Or if I just literally need to hang out and be this person's friend, realtor, car salesman.
Sure. That's generous.
But that's just it's
Where
for
do you
the
keep your
sake of
Grammy?
the good art.
Where do you keep your Grammy?
It's in my closet.
It's in your closet. Okay. Do you ever pull it out when things are rough with your lady? Just be like, just remember, honey, I've been officially deemed a genius. I know we don't agree on that restaurant, but look at this statue. Don't you think I must have a point of view?
No, to your point though, she pulls it out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
Sounds like she likes you.
Yeah,
I think she does.
I'm happy that you have a gal that listens to your music. Yeah, that's nice. I never catch my wife watching a movie I've made. It's never happened.
She's keeping Van's actually.
Yeah. She's doing a great job. Well, Van, thank you so much for coming and talking with me. It's such a pleasure and a treat. And
Thank you, man.
I'm super grateful that this could happen.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
VanHunt.com. Buy shit. Support our man.
Bye.
Peace. Stay tuned if you'd like to hear my good friend and producer Monica Padman point out the many errors in the podcast you just heard. Hello. We will now dissect Van Hunt and I's conversation, and Monica will point out all the many ways I was inaccurate or irresponsible in my speech. Monica.
Hi.
How'd it go?
Good. There's a medium amount of facts.
Medium amount.
But they were all really interesting. This to date was my most fun fact check for me personally.
Do you feel like you've returned to college by doing these?
Yes, I definitely feel like I'm doing homework, but in a good way.
Yeah. You and I both liked college a lot.
Yeah, I liked school all across the board.
Elementary, junior high, high school.
I loved school. Yeah.
College, though, you thrived in college. You were a social butterfly. You had a large group of friends.
Sure.
You're still friends
High school
with them.
too, though. Yep.
And you just recently watched them get very close to winning the college national championship in football.
Yeah.
And of course, we're talking about the Georgia...
Of course.
Poo-poos.
Poo-poos.
Poo-poo pants. The Georgia poo-poo pants. What are they?
How dare you? The Georgia Bulldogs.
Oh, that's great. That's a good name. There's a lot of bad names in college sports. And I'm not even talking about the racist ones or anything. I'm just talking about like the pigeons, the nappers, the quitters.
Everyone knows that. The lazy bums.
The Tallahassee quitters. The Sooners. One of them's the fucking Sooners. That's who they were playing in the Rose Bowl, right? Georgia was playing the Sooners, the Oklahoma Sooners. So we had to look that up. We're like, what a stupid name this is for a team, and it relates to when homesteading was happening. Apparently, you had to line up at a certain time, and then they shot a gun, and then you'd go out and stake your claim. And there were people who would go out before the gun was shot, and those were the Sooners because it's also so not only is it a bad name, it's also kind of about cheaters.
Yeah, that's not good. What
Sooners.
was your college mascot?
Oh, that's a great question. I went to UCLA. We were the Bruins. I knew that too. Yeah. And that's a bear. That's a bear.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah. There were a bunch of things that didn't make sense to me until way after I graduated. One of them was like you had to go on to Ursula something to sign up for your classes. That was like their network was Ursula something. I'm like, were they trying to sound futuristic or something? Ursula. By the way, this was early into the internet, so I thought they're pushing too hard.
Sure.
Well, Ursula is like the scientific name for bear. It's like the family name is Ursula, whatever.
Yeah, Major.
Ursula Major.
I think that's
Ursula
a
Minor.
constellation or something.
The black bears are Ursula Minor and the brown bears Ursula Major.
What about high school? What was your mascot in high school?
We were the Walled Lake Central Vikings, maybe? The Vikings?
I can't even remember.
Not really. My first junior high, Highland Junior High, was the Scots.
Oh,
yeah.
Like the Scottish people?
That's right. And the Vikings obviously is about Scandinavians.
Yeah.
And so it is interesting to me. Let's have this conversation.
Okay.
Yeah. This is always rife for you and I to argue.
Uh-oh.
It is totally fine to have a team referencing a European country or a European population of people. But it wouldn't be cool, right, to do the Milwaukee Pakistanis.
That would feel racist.
And why would it feel racist?
Because those are minority groups as opposed to the Scottish, a very massive majority white.
Yeah, but if we just start with the notion that the team name is supposed to elicit fear in its rivals because they are powerful and mighty, right? So why not just include all the mighty, powerful, historic military operations from the past, from all over the world? Let's have the Persian Empire was gigantic. They took over a big chunk of the world. Let's have the Toledo Persians.
No.
Why not?
Because it would, first of all,
Toledo doesn't have any sports. No, they have the mud hens.
Take away the racism element. It would just be confusing, okay? Because we refer to minority groups as their ethnicity. In this country, we do. If you said whatever you called them,
Try one
Toledo
out.
Persians, I can hardly get it out of my mouth.
You know what? See, I think this is a weird attempt against racism that weirdly now is racist. Like you're now saying that the word Persian, you don't even want to say it as if it's a pejorative.
I don't want to say it as an object. I don't want to objectify a group of people and make them a symbol of a team of white guys running around on a field.
But it's clearly a celebration.
But there's something.
But if you said the Persians were coming to town,
then everyone's going to think there's a bunch of Persians.
They never thought a bunch of Scottish people were coming when we were the Scots.
Okay, well,
no one thought the Vikings were going to moor their ship.
Okay, in this country, we don't differentiate the general white people by their ancestry. We just call them white people.
Well, recently, yes.
Okay, we're talking
very
about
recently.
now.
In the 50s in New York, you were still very segregated into Italian, Irish, Jewish. All these distinctions were. I mean, I think it was even a huge deal that John F. Kennedy was going to be president because he was going to be the first Catholic president. That was a big deal. So just 5 minutes ago, the white people were very identified by their country of origin.
Okay, well, we're talking about current mascots.
Yeah.
Mascots now. We do not differentiate white people by being Irish or Scottish or Italian, whatever they are. We don't do that.
Okay.
We do that for
with
minority
brown
groups.
folks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then there's more confusion when you call if you call a team the Persians. People think of Persians. They think of actual Persians now. when you call the Scots or the Vikings, no one's thinking about current Vikings and getting.
Well, I do think Vikings are largely non-existent now.
Correct.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So,
but Scots we could say are still.
And nobody's thinking that.
So there are bad ones. Clearly, there are the Redskins, right? And that is a pejorative. That's not a celebration. So are we saying that because we have a bad track record of generally making a meal out of the stereotypes that are negative about different groups of people, because we have that history, that precludes us from at least doing the opposite thing, which is celebrating a culture or history? The Aztecs, what an empire! That's something that could be celebrated. There's all these ways to shit on it in film and television, sports teams, whatnot. But if we have an opportunity to celebrate it, I don't see why that's negative.
I just don't think it. I don't think it translates in the same way when it's a minority group, because minority groups already get stereotyped all the time. They already get objectified, and they're already facing an uphill battle. Mm-hmm. So when you call them out as an object to represent, mm-hmm. to falsely represent a group of people
well, hold on though, falsely.
It's not a Persian school. If it
was, but none of these schools are. My junior high was not Scottish. The Michigan State folks are not Spartans.
I know,
they're
but
not Greek.
They still are. It's still a majority group. It's still white people.
The UCLA Bruins are not bears. These are just symbols that represent virility, strength, prowess, and physical aptitude.
Yeah,
it's a compliment. Unless you're using one of these very bad words, then clearly not.
People are racist all the time without using bad words.
Give me an example. Like when people say to black folks, they're so well spoken. That's a way to. Yeah, that's very racist.
That's something racist. Whatever. Yeah. Any stereotype is often just a negative thought about someone. Doesn't have you can think something negative about someone and not say, a slur.
Yeah, I think that we should embrace celebrating folks. And I don't think because they're, not the hegemonic group in the country, it should mean that celebrating them is negative.
You're right. It shouldn't mean that. If you're looking at this logically, mm-hmm. you're right.
Okay.
But if you
emotionally and
realistically, the way people are treated is not based on logic. It's based on emotion, and it's based on meanness.
Okay. But I just want to be clear for our purposes here. I'm not proposing a cartoon drawing of a Persian. I'm proposing you call it the Persians, and there's like a cool sword.
Yeah.
Or the Huns, and you show the stirrup in the horse, which was their mounted troops were the breakthrough of the Huns. That's why they were so successful. So that was their big technological breakthrough. You celebrate that part of
but
horse.
Doesn't it also feel like white people adopting this thing that isn't theirs? It's like there's something that feels a little bit like appropriation in a way as well. I
think what you and I are really, really debating and in it is that you don't believe there could be a celebration of that culture. You just don't trust.
No.
Given our history, you don't really believe it would be a celebration of the Persians. I think that's where the rubber meets the road on this one. I think it's a lack of trust, which is very fair.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think that's diluting it a lot, but yeah, well, I don't know. But
you are saying if a white person were to pick the Huns, that's a no-go.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I appreciate your perspective, and I love you.
I love you.
And it's very okay that we differ on this.
Yeah.
I don't even think in a court of law, I think this would be a mistrial. I don't think they would find in your favor or mine.
The people will tell us, I'm sure.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into the fact checking.
Okay. In talking about where Van came from, you referenced a Malcolm Gladwell book that discussed culture of pride, also known as culture of honor. I think more commonly known as culture of honor.
Okay.
And that book is from Outliers.
Ah.
And it's also referenced, I know, from Hillbilly Elegy. They talk about that book.
Yes. The Malcolm Gladwell books, I can't recommend them enough. They are like reading great magazine articles, one chapter after another. And you don't even have to agree, or personally, I don't know that I agree with his overarching conclusion, but getting the case material is so fascinating. Getting the data or the studies or the history of these family feuds and stuff. It's so fascinating whether or not you agree with his ultimate conclusion. They're so fun.
Okay, and then Van had mentioned Ray Charles, saxophone guy.
Okay.
And he said he thought his name was King Louis. But based on the information I found, it was David Fathead Newman.
Ooh.
Also,
those are both great names,
They
King
are.
Louis or Fathead Newman. How about a sports team named the Fathead Newmans?
Sure.
Okay.
You mentioned, Van, that he plays a lot of instruments like Prince does, and you called that multi-musicianal.
That's not a word, right?
It's not.
Okay.
It's called multi-instrumentalist.
Oh, that's a lot more specific,
Yeah.
temporally specific.
Okay, and then you said that Detroit was the blackest city in the country when you lived there.
And I said 92% black?
Yep, you said 92% black. And it is 79.2%
Today. Yeah.
Some stats say 83%.
That's a big gap.
It shouldn't, because there's a census, so I don't know why. But anyway, and it is still currently the city with the highest population of African Americans in the U.S.
Per capita.
Followed by...
Can I guess?
Yeah.
I'd like to go through these.
Sure. There's two.
Jacksonville?
No.
Damn it. Houston?
Nope.
Atlanta?
Nope.
Wow. All right.
You were kind of close with Jacksonville, only in sound. Jackson, Mississippi.
Oh, okay.
And then Miami Gardens, Florida.
Not a place.
Made up.
Nice
place.
try.
Okay. This was really interesting, this next little fact for me.
Tidbit. Okay.
Yeah, because you had said, in your estimation, when you were younger, and you would go to Atlanta, it seemed like it was a much better place for Black people to live than Detroit.
Yeah.
And I'm from Atlanta, so I kind of felt like maybe you were wrong and you were just, sort of blinded by your specific circumstance and who you were around. But
Sure.
You are right.
Oh, good.
The median household income for African Americans in Atlanta is $41,300. And the median household income in Detroit is $25,980.
That's a staggering gap.
Yes, very, very, very large gap.
Yeah.
And Forbes evaluated, this was a 2018 article, Forbes evaluated America's 53 largest metropolitan statistical areas based on 3 factors that we believe are indicators of middle class in this country. So the home ownership rate, entrepreneurship, and median household income.
Mm-hmm.
And Atlanta and Washington were tied for first place.
Wow.
For best.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like I really had it right.
You did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did. I thought it was fair to call that out.
Yeah. So I had been to Atlanta a lot. You had not been to Detroit a lot as a kid. You would have been pretty shocked with how bleak the life for your average Black person was in Detroit. It was pretty.
I guess
it was pretty depressing.
Yeah.
And when I would go down to Atlanta, I'd see like Black families at restaurants that were like total middle class Chili's types restaurants,
right.
With the whole family there. You just would not see that in Detroit very often.
Yeah.
And they own nice new cars. They had nice new clothes that, it was very visible in Detroit, the income inequality. Now it's on a big, big rebound, but I lived downtown Detroit in a condemned building, and it was 3,000 square feet and it was $400 a month. That same building now is getting like $3,800 a month for rent. It was as close to a post-apocalyptic city as you could really find, I think. Although I haven't spent a lot of time in Pittsburgh, but I think Pittsburgh went through a similar really, really rough downturn in the industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned that you assumed Dayton would be sort of a middle ground in between Detroit and Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
And Dayton's median income for African Americans is $27,683.
Worse.
No, a little bit better, but by
but also
very little.
I have to imagine I don't really know if that's true. I was going to say maybe the cost of living is cheaper in Dayton, so relative it would be higher, but I guess not.
Okay, so you brought up Bushwick Bill,
Mm-hmm.
and you mentioned his girlfriend shot him.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's some conflicting information on this because most articles say his girlfriend shot him, like you did.
Yeah.
During an argument. And I couldn't find where, even though that was what you told me to find, but I couldn't find it. But then Bushwick Bill went on the show Party Legends on Viceland.
Okay.
And he said
oh boy,
that it was his mom
who
who shot him.
Huh.
That he wanted to commit suicide, but knew that if you committed suicide, you can't get life insurance. And he wanted his mom to get the life insurance. So he got really high, and then he concocted this plan where he would give his mom the gun and then provoke her. And so he did.
This sounds like such a bonding experience between mother and child.
Sure, I know. It's what we all dream about.
I mean, I can't even grasp handing my mother a revolver.
But he, I guess, put his face in front of the gun, and then she kind of turned and closed her eyes, and then she shot his eye out.
What a story this is.
So she shot his eye out and didn't kill him. Okay, but literally every other article I found said that it was his girlfriend.
Yeah, and can I float a theory?
Sure.
I want to float a theory that, he during the time of that interview, he was trying to patch things up with the ex, and he thought he should stop telling everyone she shot him.
This is recently.
Yeah, maybe he's trying to put things back together.
That was a really long time ago,
Yeah.
so maybe.
But in the face, right? He did get shot in the face.
Yeah, his eye. He doesn't not have an eye. Okay, so you guys started talking about Freaknik, and then a festival came up. A recent festival came up that sort
with
of
the
went
the
crazy.
FEMA tents. Yeah.
So I got a little more information on that. I couldn't really remember. It was called the Fry Festival, and yes,
not put together by Glenn Fry of the Eagles.
I'm so sorry. It's called the Fire Festival.
Oh, Jesus
but
Christ,
Monica. But look, it's spelled Fyre.
Of course it is.
Well, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But it's easy for me to read this backwards.
Sure. Yeah.
Fire Festival.
With a Y.
With a Y. And so it was started by Billy McFarland, who's a 25-year-old Manhattan entrepreneur. And this was sort of sold to these elite millennials and influencers and stuff.
There were some musicians attached to the promotion, right? Ja Rule. Who I love.
And it was sold as an ultra luxurious, quote, Coachella in the Bahamas.
Okay. You got me.
Yeah.
I'm on the hook.
And then tickets cost up to $12,000 a piece.
Oh my God.
Yep. Okay, so then there's
for a FEMA tent.
There's an article in Vanity Fair about this. I just want to read a little excerpt from that. This is a girl who went. So McFarland suggested that everyone who had booked one of the private villas follow him, but there were no private villas. There were no buildings to stay in, period. Instead, there was a cluster of carpeted tents. Suddenly, Kumar, a girl who attended the festival, says, there was this mass rush of people running to the tents. It was just chaos. What should we do? We ended up grabbing 2 tents. The beds were damp, but the carpet was completely soaked. It was like Survivor of the Amazing Race gone really bad. People were stealing bedding. People were getting more and more drunk. We couldn't we couldn't leave our things, so we just stayed in the tents. It was just epic chaos. Their plan was to get everyone really drunk, and they'll forget how shitty this really is.
Which is normally a bulletproof business model.
Yeah, but
just
when
get everyone hammered and let the chips fall where they may.
$12,000 a piece.
Yeah.
Yikes.
It's hard. There are certain events where it's kind of hard to feel bad for the victim, and in this case, I'm just a little less sympathetic to someone who believes that the 25-year-old entrepreneur and Ja Rule have put together a great island retreat for $12,000. You have to be a tiny bit skeptical, don't you? FOMO. I guess we've put an actual price on FOMO. They're like, this thing could go south, but then again, we could be missing the greatest party of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I think people's egos got really boosted because I think it was exclusive, and it was elite, and all of these fancy words that people get off on. Okay. You said the first movie you did, Without a Paddle, cost $19 million and made $60, but it made $70.
Oh, it did? Oh, that's worldwide. You're doing it. You're being very kind by doing worldwide numbers, which I like.
Well, you aren't specifically saying domestic when you speak.
You're right. I'm not. You're right.
Van mentioned Thelonious Monk, and then that made you brought up Charles Mingus, and he said he liked his book. And I just want to say his book is called Beneath the Underdog. And then you mentioned a documentary about him.
Yeah.
And that's called Charles Mingus, 1968.
Ooh. God, I want to watch that again.
And that talks about basically him getting evicted and stuff, right? Yeah.
And he seems a little unstable by my definition of stability.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he's just an extreme artist and he's just not super anchored into reality, but he definitely has a very peculiar personality in that documentary.
It sounds sad because he has like his 5-year-old, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds
It is sad, but then he grabs a bass and you go, fuck, this guy's got a superpower. I don't feel that bad now.
Really?
Like, yeah.
I feel worse. Because he shouldn't be in that situation.
Well, yes, he should. So one way to look at it is that's worse. But then another part of me goes, fuck, I would rather have that skill and that genius than any apartment or car or clothes or anything.
Really?
Yeah.
You would rather have that skill.
Well, not now. I have 2 little kids. But
yeah, he had a kid.
Like if I could sing like Adele, but I had to move to a 1-bedroom apartment, I think I would take that trade.
If I could sing like Adele,
yeah,
but I could not keep an apartment, I was getting evicted. And
well, just for the record, he had a huge space. He just probably needed a downgrade. He had a gigantic warehouse full of shit. So it's not like he went to a shelter or a porta potty. So let's just say he has to go to a 2-bedroom.
Well, if I couldn't pay the rent
and
I had a 5-year-old, I would.
But you could probably land a suitor with some dough if you could sing like Adele.
Yeah, I definitely could. If only. Okay, so you guys were talking about Prince albums and how his first album didn't have any hits, and his debut album is called For You, and it was released in 1978, and Prince was 20.
Oof. God damn.
Yeah, special.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all.
That's all.
That is all.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Especially the part about fire.
Especially the part about mascots.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Monica, and good night to you.